Chapter 31-39. Bastard! That damned beast! Even if I cut him into 1,000 pieces, it would not be enough to appease the hatred in my heart. In the raging flame royal city, Prince Lien angrily roared in the secret chamber of the palace. He stood in the middle of the divine liquid pool, his whole body burning with blood-red flames. The pool water was boiling and evaporating, creating a vast mist. On the ground 1 zhang away from him was a pile of broken jade slips. On the ground 2 zhang away, the Lien heir was kneeling on one knee with his head buried deep, trembling with fear. Just a moment ago, the Lien heir had sent a message from the Overlord Pavilion's master. In the message, the Overlord Pavilion's master said that the headquarters had been destroyed and more than 2,000 disciples had been killed, which was a devastating blow to the Overlord Pavilion. Now, the Overlord Pavilion's master and more than 400 of his elites had lost their fighting spirit and fighting spirit. In desperation, the Overlord Pavilion could only temporarily withdraw from the operation and return to the headquarters to clean up the mess and recuperate. Prince Lien's mission was indeed important, but the headquarters of the Overlord Pavilion had been operating for more than 10,000 years could not be lost. Although the Overlord Pavilion's master had tactfully proposed his idea and repeatedly apologized to Prince Lien, the truth was right in front of him. No matter how tactful he was, it was useless. Prince Lien was so angry that his whole body trembled and he almost vomited blood. There was no other way. This was already the 5th time he had received such news. A total of 5 sects had been attacked by Ji Tianqing, and their headquarters and gates had been destroyed. The result was the same. The 5 sects were scared out of their wits and did not dare to participate in the encirclement mission. They hurriedly rushed back to the headquarters to clean up the mess. This was because the headquarters had many disciples' families and many emotional ties. Moreover, each sect understood that this was a threat and warning from Tianqing. If they continued to participate in the mission, the next time it would not be the old and weak from the headquarters that would be slaughtered, but their elites. If Ji Tianqing could sneak attack the headquarters of each sect, then he could also intercept and kill the main force of each sect. In other words, the life and death of each sect was in the hands of Ji Tianqing. The headquarters and gates of the 5 sects have been destroyed by that bastard. Right now, only the Spirit Sword sect, the Divine Saber Union, and the 10,000 Streams sect have not been attacked. 5 sects have withdrawn from the operation, leaving only the 3 sections. Can they still encircle that bastard Tianqing? Grand Prince Lien roared in a hoarse voice. His entire body was filled with fierce flames, and his eyes were dark red. At this time, the Lien heir said with a trembling voice, "Your Highness, just now, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect also sent a message." When Prince Lien heard this, he immediately grinned coldly and said, "What? The Spirit Sword sect hasn't been attacked by that beast yet, are they going to withdraw from the operation?" The Lien heir lowered his head even more and said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, please understand. Although the Spirit Sword sect has not been attacked, the headquarters of the other 5 sects have been destroyed. From Tianqing's action plan, the next target was the Spirit Sword sect, the 10,000 Flow sect, and the Divine Blade Union. Therefore, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect has expressed his intention to lead the elites back to the headquarters to guard against Tianqing's attack. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect has said that if Tianqing really attacks the headquarters of the Spirit Sword sect, he will destroy both the jade and the common stone. Even if he has to sacrifice everyone in the Spirit Sword sect, including himself, he will do his utmost to kill Tianqing, so as to not disappoint your Highness." Ha ha ha. Grand Prince Lien immediately laughed and sneered contemptuously. These bastards, do they really think that this king is confused by anger? Isn't he just greedy for life and afraid of death, wanting to preserve the foundation of the Spirit Sword sect? Why do they have to make it sound so dignified? If Tianqing really attacks the Spirit Sword sect, why would he fight to the death? I'm afraid he would run faster than anyone else. The Lien heir remained silent, not daring to answer. Grand Prince Lien sneered for a while, then waved his hand dispiritedly. Forget it, forget it. The 5 sects have already withdrawn, and the Spirit Sword sect also wants to escape. This king's inescapable dragnet plan has already failed. Even if I order the Spirit Sword sect to stay, what's the point? On the contrary, this king will end up with a reputation of being harsh and ungrateful, not caring about the life and death of my subordinates. If the Spirit Sword sect wants to be a coward, then let them be. The Lien heir immediately kowtowed and said with a sonorous voice, "Your Highness is wise. This subordinate will pass the message that the Spirit Sword sect is allowed to temporarily withdraw from the operation." With that, the Lien heir bowed and prepared to leave the secret room. However, at this moment, a flash of light flew out from the passage and landed in front of the Lien heir. The Lien heir grabbed the jade slip and quickly used his divine sense to examine it. Suddenly, his complexion changed, revealing a deeply aghast expression. Seeing his reaction, Grand Prince Lien immediately frowned and asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" The Lien heir swallowed hard and said with a trembling voice, "Reporting to your Highness. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect just sent a message." Chapter 3140. The moon was dark and the wind was howling. In the falling Sword Mountain range of the Cambrian County, a group of more than 400 people majestically flew across the sky. After a short while, this majestic group stopped in the air above a plain. The crowd was very quiet. Everyone looked solemn, sorrowful, and dignified. Everyone looked at the plain in the night, their expression was full of grief, indignation, and hatred. This was because this 800-mile-wide plain was originally a stretch of towering mountain peaks and valleys. On top of the 2,000-feet-high mountain, there were countless palaces and buildings. That was where the Spirit Sword sect was located. But now, everything was wiped out. The mountain and the ravine no longer existed. More than 2,000 disciples also turned into ashes, not even a whole corpse was left. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect rushed back with more than 400 elders, deacons, and elite disciples, only to see such a miserable scene. How could they not be angry and desperate? A heavy and solemn atmosphere pervaded the crowd. In the hearts of more than 400 people, there was a thick resentment and killing intent accumulated. At this time, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect loudly said, "It took 8,000 years for our sect to develop to its current scale. But now, that beast Tianqing is so cruel and vicious that he actually destroyed our sect's foundation and slaughtered more than 2,000 disciples. Such a blood feud is absolutely irreconcilable in this life." The more than 400 elite disciples all loudly shouted, "Absolutely irreconcilable. Absolutely irreconcilable." The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect raised his hand and pressed it down, signaling the crowd to be quiet. He then said in a heavy tone, "However, we must remember this enmity in our hearts. For the time being, we cannot retaliate. The top priority is to immediately rush to the Eternal Night City, where half of our sect's foundation and painstaking efforts are." The ordinary disciples didn't quite understand the meaning of this sentence, but many of the elders and deacons understood the meaning of the sect leader. Many years ago, the sect leader had prepared for a rainy day and made a plan in advance. On the surface, the Spirit Sword sect only had this one headquarters. But in fact, the Spirit Sword sect had built a treasure house in the Eternal Night City, which stored a massive amount of cultivation resources and treasures. The so-called eggs cannot be put in one basket. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect had long understood this truth. He also had reason to believe that although Ji Tianqing could destroy the Spirit Sword sect, it was impossible for him to know the location of the treasure house. So what if more than 2,000 disciples died? As long as that treasury still exists, our sect still has a chance to rise again. This was the inner thought of the Spirit Sword sect's sect leader. Soon, he left the battlefield ruins with more than 400 elders, deacons, and elite disciples, and rushed to Everlasting Night City as fast as lightning. After continuously rushing for 4 hours, everyone finally arrived at Eternal Night City. This ancient city with thousands of years of history was still brightly lit even in the middle of the night. In the entire Cambrian County, Ever Night City was one of the top few cities with a large population. However, the treasure house of the Spirit Sword sect was not in the city. Instead, it was 1,000 miles south of the city, in an inconspicuous, dilapidated villa. The dilapidated villa was located in the middle of the mountains. The villa occupied an area of more than 10 miles, and there was no sign of human habitation on normal days. However, in the dark, there were hundreds of elite experts lying in ambush all over the villa, guarding the safety of the treasure house day and night. As for the treasure house, of course, it was under the ground of the villa, in the belly of the mountain. The treasure house was protected by a powerful divine array, which not only concealed its divine power, but also made it difficult to be discovered. Whoosh! Whoosh! A dazzling divine light flashed, and the more than 400 people of the Spirit Sword sect arrived in the sky above the villa. In the past, the people in the villa should have been alarmed. Immediately, a guard flew out, saluted the sect leader and the others, and reported the defense situation. However, tonight, the villa was dead silent. Not only no guard appeared, but there was also no sound. Such a strange scene caused the sect leader and several elders of the Spirit Sword sect to frown with vigilance. After hesitating for a moment, several elders began to discuss. Sect leader, this old man feels that something is wrong with this villa. According to the past practice, the guard captain and the housekeeper have already found out that we are coming, so they must come out to greet us. Sect leader, the villa looks so strange. Should we investigate the situation first? I have a bad premonition that this villa has been occupied. What? How could that kid know about this place? Damn it! In this villa, half of our sect's life's work is buried. The great defensive array of the villa seems to have been tampered with. We can't even detect the situation in the villa. No matter what the truth is, everyone should be careful. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect quickly made up his mind. He took out his divine weapons and quietly landed in the mountain villa with more than 400 elites. Before the crowd could shout, there was no time to release their divine sense to investigate the situation in the villa. Suddenly, a 20 miles wide 5-colored divine array appeared out of thin air in the night sky. Whoosh! Chapter 31:41. Soon, 100 breaths of time had passed. The 5-colored sword array that blotted out the sky actually stopped operating. And at this time, more than 400 Sky God Realm elite disciples had already been killed. Even several elders had been beheaded, leaving only 5 people alive. The 5 elders and 12 deacons surrounded the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, their hearts filled with fear. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect could only remain calm. He roared in a low voice, "Tianqing. Even if this lord has never met you, this lord has already guessed that this is your doing. Apart from you, no one else has this kind of courage and means. Now that the Spirit Sword sect has been destroyed, we only have a few seedlings left. I hope you can let us go. Rest assured, as long as you spare us, we swear that we will never go against you again." The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect was thoroughly terrified. He no longer dared to boast, and his tone also eased a lot. Even though the Spirit Sword sect had suffered such a heavy loss, the sect leader did not dare to show any resentment or hatred. Above the ruined mountain villa, a young man's voice sounded. Crisp and efficient, full of powerful domineering aura. Before this lord has already given you a chance. However, you didn't cherish it, and even wanted to be Prince Lian's accomplice, still thinking about this treasure house. Since that's the case, don't blame this lord for being ruthless. There was no doubt that this was Ji Tianqing's voice. His answer also announced the death of the people of the Spirit Sword sect. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect was immediately filled with grief and indignation. He roared in a low voice, kid, how can you be so vicious, killing us all in one fell swoop? Even though we work for Prince Lien, we haven't had any conflicts with you until now. As the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, he was usually very high profile and dignified. At that moment it was already very difficult for him to be able to say such lowly words in front of so many people. But unfortunately, Ji Tianqing was unmoved. He coldly replied, "Don't talk so much nonsense. Since you chose to follow Prince Lien, you must bear the consequences." As his voice fell, the divine sword rain that blotted out the sky once again poured down in torrents. Rumble. Bang 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 bang. A deafening explosion erupted in the sky, resounding through the clouds. The powerhouses of the Spirit Sword sect desperately unleashed their magical abilities in a futile attempt to resist the bombardment of the divine punishment. Unfortunately, it was all in vain. Everyone's divine abilities were immediately torn to shreds by the giant sword. However, the power of the divine greatsword didn't diminish as it pierced through a dozen elders and deacons. In an instant, blood splattered within the sword formation again, and screams rose and fell one after another. In just 10 breaths of time, all the elders and deacons were dead. Only the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect was still alive, but he was also covered in blood and bruises. His long hair was disheveled, and the long robe he wore had turned into rags. His arms, legs, and chest were all marked with chopstick-sized marks. Even his internal organs were clearly visible. "Ah! You vicious beast, I'll fight you to the death." At this point, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect had to accept his fate. He knew that Ji Tianqing wouldn't let him off, and that today he would die without a doubt. However, even if he died here, he would drag Ji Tianqing down with him. Thus, he roused his life's divine power and brazenly launched a self-detonation. Huff. Huff huff. Suddenly, the sect leader's divine body violently swelled up, flashing with dazzling divine light. An aura that could destroy heaven and earth was released from his body. At this time, Ji Tianqing's voice sounded in the night sky. "Now you're determined to self-detonate, don't you think it's too late?" As he spoke, a huge palm the size of a palace descended from the night sky, ruthlessly slapping toward the sect leader. While dodging, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect laughed like a madman. "Ha ha ha. Are you finally afraid? Even if my death is insignificant, don't think you'll have an easy time. Even if I don't kill you, I'll make you seriously injured." After all, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect was an 8th-stage monarch god, and his strength was very profound. He had enough confidence that even if he couldn't kill Ji Tianqing, he would still seriously injure him. However, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect didn't understand Ji Tianqing at all. The huge palm that descended from the sky instantly turned into a sword finger, and with a speed faster than the aurora, it ruthlessly stabbed the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect. Bang! Along with a crisp muffled sound, the shining golden sword finger pierced the Spirit Sword sect's sect leader. An even stranger scene appeared. The body of the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect, like a deflated balloon, instantly became shriveled. Immediately afterward, his body quickly weathered, bursting into hundreds of millions of fragments. The sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect's self-detonation was rudely interrupted by Ji Tianqing. Not only was his self-detonation destroyed, his body collapsed and shattered, even his fighting spirit were crushed to the point that not a single drop was left. Swoosh! A dazzling 5-colored godhead flew across the sky like a stream of light, fleeing toward the gap in the sword array. However, Ji Tianqing's eyes were sharp and his hands were fast. He directly flicked his finger and shot out 2 rays of sword light, which hit the godhead first. Gotcha! With a crisp cracking sound, the sect leader of the Spirit Sword sect's godhead was shattered. A dignified 8th-stage high divine monarch had fallen just like that, died in obscurity. The battle was finally over. The divine light and storm that pervaded between heaven and earth had also gradually weakened a lot. The mountain villa with a radius of more than 10 miles had long been leveled to the ground. Not even a single piece of intact brick was left. Ji Tianqing began to clean up the battlefield, searching for the fragments of the godheads of the sect leader and several elders. At this time, Lin Shui, Zhen Hong, and the others swarmed to Ji Tianqing's side. Everyone's mood was very excited, and their expressions were full of complacency. Ha ha ha. Fortunately, we came 2 hours early. Otherwise, where would we find the treasury? I really didn't expect this. The Spirit Sword sect's secret treasury here actually stored tens of billions of cultivation resources. This time, we really made a big profit. There was no doubt that Lin Shui, Zhen Hong, and the others had already searched the underground treasury long before the sect leader and the 400 disciples of the Spirit Sword sect arrived. The cultivation resources stored in the treasury had been divided up by everyone. After solving the matter of the treasury, everyone hid in the town and rested for a while. When the sect leader and the several hundred disciples of the Spirit Sword sect came over aggressively, everyone waited at ease and quickly settled the matter. From this moment on, the Spirit Sword sect no longer existed. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and removed the sword array. Then, he quickly left the ruins with Lin Shui, Zhen Hong, and the others. The 7 major sects have already received their due punishment. Now, only the Divine Blade Union and the Thousand Flows sect are left. Although Nia Feiyun has marked on the map that the Divine Blade Union and the Thousand Flows sect have branches and treasury. However, we only need to defeat the people of the 2 major sects to have a deterrent effect. While flying, Ji Tianqing silently calculated the next plan. Book Guest House Reading Website. Chapter 3142. 5 days later. The news of the annihilation of the Spirit Sword sect spread in the Raging Flame Divine Country. Countless sects and forces got the news from various channels and knew that the murderer was Tianqing from the Bloody Flame Divine Country. Not only that, but there were also all kinds of rumors in the Divine Country. The several major sects that had been destroyed by the Divine Punishment were actually destroyed by Tianqing. This person was extremely vicious and had entered the Raging Flame Divine Country with boundless murderous intent to stir up a reign of terror and kill all the major sects and forces. All kinds of rumors and news quickly spread in the Raging Flame Divine Country. For a time, all the sects and forces in the Divine Country were talking about Ji Tianqing. The people from these sects and forces had never seen Ji Tianqing before. They had only heard of his glorious battle achievements. Everyone described him as a 3-headed, 6-armed, ferocious-looking demon of slaughter. As a result, countless people hated him and feared him greatly. For a long time, the sects and forces of the Raging Flame Divine Country would turn pale when they talked about Tianqing. In short, Ji Tianqing was thoroughly famous in the Raging Flame Divine Country. Although he had a bad reputation, it could be said that his name had spread throughout the Divine Country, overshadowing countless powerhouses. It was said that even the royal family of the Raging Flame Divine Country was paying attention to him. The royal family expressed their anger and condemnation for his actions and massacring in the Raging Flame Divine Country. They advised him to surrender as soon as possible and accept the punishment of the royal family. Otherwise, the royal family would dispatch the imperial army and the Raging Flame Corps to arrest him according to the laws of the Raging Flame Divine Country. When this news spread, the people of the Raging Flame Divine Country, as well as the major sects and forces, cheered and applauded, expressing their support. Moreover, those sects that were trembling with fear and thought that Tianqing might visit them were looking forward to the king giving the order to kill Tianqing as soon as possible. Cloud Sun County. In the prosperous and affluent Cloud Sun City, in an inconspicuous house. Ji Tianqing, Lin Shui, and the others were sitting in a secret underground room, whispering. At this time, the stone door of the secret room opened. Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jean and Right Emissary Blood Dragon entered the secret room one after another. Everyone saluted Ji Tianqing and Shui Lin. After greeting them, they reported, "Young Master, we've walked around the city a few times. As expected, we've heard a lot of news. Young master, the news of the destruction of the Spirit Sword sect has spread. Moreover, the destruction of the previous sects has also aroused the discussion of the common people of the God country. Young master, you have already become a celebrity in the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. It can be said that everyone knows about you. When we walked on the streets, we could hear the God race talking about your deeds. It was obvious that Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jin and Shui Long were looking for information in the city. Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and sneered, just as I expected. What other news is there? How did the outside world talk about this monarch? Report everything as it is. Hence, Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jin and the other two reported the news that they had heard truthfully. After Ji Tianqing listened, the sneer on his face deepened. Ha ha ha. This is clearly the news released by that bastard Prince Lien. He spread rumors to slander this monarch, deliberately causing panic and hostility among the major forces. As for the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom's royal family, they will also pretend to pay attention to this matter and gradually deepen the conflict with this monarch. In the end, the Raging Flame royal family will have enough reason to make a move. Hearing this, Shui Lin frowned and worriedly said, why would the Raging Flame royal family make a move? The common people are fooled by Prince Lien and simply don't know the truth. But the royal family should know that this is a grudge between us and Prince Lien. Why should the royal family get involved in this mess? Without waiting for Ji Tianqing to speak, Nia Feiyun, who was standing behind him, took the initiative to explain, Sect Master Lin might not know, but the Raging Flame royal family and Prince Lien have a close relationship. If Prince Lien can deal with us, the Raging Flame royal family naturally doesn't need to make a move. But if Prince Lien is powerless, the royal family will help sooner or later. Damn it! Shui Lin frowned and cursed while gnashing her teeth, so to say, we are about to become public enemies in the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, our previous opponents were only Prince Lien's forces and the Raging Flame royal family. But now, Prince Lien is deliberately spreading rumors to incite the various sects to join forces to deal with us. His inescapable net plan failed, so he wants to use this tactic to gather the power of countless sects to deal with us, the public enemies. The Blood Illusion God Monarch worriedly said, young master, we can deal with Prince Lien's forces one by one and make them tremble in fear. But if all the sects of the Divine Kingdom join forces to deal with us, I'm afraid it won't be something that can be solved by killing. The more we kill, the more the sects will fear and hate us. They will become even more united and counterattack even more crazily. That way, Prince Lien's scheme will succeed. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, this monarch naturally understands this and is already mentally prepared. However, you don't have to worry. Those sects are just a motley crew and won't amount to much. As long as we cut off Prince Lien's wings as quickly as possible and kill him, everything will be resolved. Shui Lin promptly nodded in agreement. Right. The most important thing right now is to cut the Gordian knot and deal with Prince Lien as quickly as possible. The Divine Blade Union's mountain gate is located 50,000 miles outside the city. Shall we act tonight? Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, don't worry, this monarch already sent White Dragon and Zhen Hong to scout for information. It won't be too late for us to act after they find out the Divine Blade Union situation. Right now, the entire Divine Kingdom is in an uproar. The Divine Blade Union and the Myriad Flow sect are well aware that this monarch's next target is them. How could they sit still and wait for death? Nia Feiyun expressed his affirmation and said with a grave tone, young master is right. The Divine Blade Union and the Myriad Flow sect are among the top 7 sects of the Divine Kingdom. Not only do these two sects have deep foundations, but they also have branches and treasure vaults. They also have other sects as allies. Now that they have a premonition of danger, they will either think of ways to strengthen their defenses and resist with all their might. Or they will huddle together for warmth, or transfer their wealth and foundations. In short, they will not sit still and wait for death. They will definitely take action. Just as everyone was discussing, a spiritual light flew into the secret room and landed in front of Ji Tianqing. Swoosh! The spiritual light dissipated and a communication jade slip appeared. Ji Tianqing glanced at it and smiled. "Don't worry, White Dragon has sent back a message." After speaking, he reached out and grabbed the jade slip, using his divine sense to read the contents. After a few breaths of time, he finished reading the message in the jade slip, and his lips curled into a playful smile. In the face of a great enemy, the Divine Blade Union doesn't have much choice and can only do this. Although they are wise, their speed is still too slow. "Let's go, we should move." The Divine Blade Union is a bunch of cowards who are afraid of death. They actually fled. These bastards would rather bear the humiliation and become Prince Lien's dogs. If they publicly announce that they no longer serve Prince Lien, won't Master forgive them? Bai Long also understood that no matter how much the Godly Blade Union feared his master, they would not publicly announce their separation from Prince Lien. However, since the Divine Blade Union worked for Prince Lien, they were destined to be eradicated by Master. Otherwise, the Divine Blade Union would become a sharp blade in Prince Lien's hands and take away their lives. "Master, Master, please come quickly." If it was an hour later, all the cowards of the Divine Blade Union would have escaped. White Dragon muttered to himself. Zhen Hong, who was hiding not far away, heard his voice and said, "Young Master has his own plans and arrangements. Why are you in such a hurry? Don't make any more noise. If we are discovered, young Master will have to come and save us again." White Dragon rolled his eyes and said disdainfully, "With those cowards from the Divine Blade Union. They can't even escape now. How would they dare to attack us?" Just as he finished speaking, a familiar voice sounded in his ears. "Although the Divine Blade Union's actions are humiliating, they are wise. If you think that the leader of the Divine Blade Union is a coward, then you are gravely mistaken." Suddenly hearing this voice, White Dragon was overjoyed. He hurriedly turned around and saw a familiar figure standing 100 steps behind him. It was Ji Tianqing. In the forest behind him, Lin Shui, Sir God Blood Illusion, Left Emissary Jean, and the others were also present. White Dragon hurriedly went up to greet him. After bowing, he reported the situation. "Master, the people of the Divine Blade Union have already decided to escape. Since I arrived, the Divine Blade Union's disciples have been packing up and gathering at the square. An hour ago, they started boarding the divine warships and left. Now, 15 divine warships have already left, taking away about 3,000 people. There are still a few thousand people in the Divine Blade Union who have not managed to escape." Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and asked, "Other than the Divine Blade Union's disciples and servants, have you seen the Divine Blade Union's elders and leader?" This. White Dragon hesitated. After thinking for a long time, he shook his head and replied, "I have not seen them. Perhaps I am too weak." Before he could finish, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and interrupted him, "It is not that you are weak, but the elders and leader of the Divine Blade Union have already escaped. Not only that, they have most likely taken away the Divine Blade Union's main elite force. Those who stayed in the Divine Blade Union and boarded the divine warships to escape were just ordinary disciples and servants. The Divine Blade Union is so cunning. Are they determined to go against us?" White Dragon frowned, revealing a trace of disappointment and anger. Ji Tianqing nodded and said, "Although the Divine Blade Union is afraid of us, they are more afraid of Prince Lien. Or maybe they trust and rely on Prince Lien more. Maybe the Divine Blade Union's leader is still dreaming that he can make contributions through this mission and be rewarded and promoted by Prince Lien." Lin Shui was not interested in these questions. She held the demonic blade and pointed at the Divine Blade Union's mountain gate not far away. She asked, "What do we do now? Do we kill those small fries or not?" Ji Tianqing said calmly, although the Divine Blade Union's main force and elites have escaped, there is no point in killing those small fries. However, we must do what we must. We must destroy the Divine Blade Union's mountain gate as a warning. Before we kill the Divine Blade Union's main force, as long as the Divine Blade Union's leader announces that he is no longer on good terms with Prince Lien, they will still have a chance to live. Lin Shui was relieved. She held the demonic blade and flew towards the Divine Blade Union's mountain gate. That's more like it. Otherwise, we would have made a wasted trip. How embarrassing would that be? When she finished speaking, she had already turned into a ray of bloody light and flew above the Divine Blade Union. Heaven's Wrath Blood Slash. She held the demonic blade with both hands. Her whole body emitted a bloody light that shot up to the sky. She used the momentum of splitting the heavens and earth to slash out a giant bloody blade that was thousands of feet long. Suddenly, the entire Divine Blade Union was enveloped in a dazzling bloody light. Kaboom! Following an earth-shattering explosion, the Divine Blade Union's protective array was activated. A 5-colored light barrier with a radius of 200 miles blocked the giant bloody blade. The bloody blade collapsed and exploded into thousands of bloody light fragments. The 5-colored light barrier was also trembling non-stop and emitted a strong divine power fluctuation. Such a huge commotion immediately alarmed thousands of disciples, servants, and odd job workers. Countless people lost their heads out of fear and screamed in anger and fear. Thousands of disciples and odd job workers had no chance to dodge or resist, and were quickly killed by the 10,000 swords. Even the 20 divine warships could not escape the heaven-destroying sword formation even though they had fled in panic. In the end, they were smashed into pieces by the tens of thousands of swords. For a full 10 breaths of time, the world within a radius of 500 miles was in chaos. Dazzling 5-colored divine light filled heaven and earth, and endless dust and debris covered the sky. The loud rumbling continued for a long time before it dissipated. When Ji Tianqing removed the sword formation, the Divine Blade Union's mountain gate no longer existed. Within a radius of 500 miles, everything was razed to the ground. The mountains, palaces, plazas, and mansions had all turned into dust. As for the 20 divine warships, the thousands of disciples, servants, and odd job workers, they had also turned into dust and returned to heaven and earth. 2 deacons were very lucky. They had escaped the sword formation before the 10,000 giant swords descended and luckily survived. They had witnessed the destruction of the mountain gate with their own eyes and were scared out of their wits. They ran away without caring about anything else. Ji Tianqing's divine sense covered heaven and earth, and of course, he had discovered the 2 deacons. However, he did not kill them and allowed them to escape. After all, the 2 deacons would soon spread the news of the mountain gate's destruction. After the dust and debris had settled, Lin Shui, Bai Long, Shui Huan, Zhen Hong, and the others looked at the ruins in a radius of a few hundred miles and were speechless. Lin Shui frowned and asked gloomily, Tianqing, did you do it on purpose? Ji Tianqing turned his head and looked at her, his face full of confusion. What do you mean by on purpose? Lin Shui snorted coldly and said, you could have destroyed the mountain gate with your sword formation. Why did you have to watch me make a fool of myself? Previously, she had used more than 20 superpowers consecutively and had used all her strength. However, she had not been able to break through the sect protection array. Ji Tianqing, on the other hand, had summoned 10,000 swords to attack. Not only had he destroyed the array, but he had also destroyed the entire mountain gate. The difference between the two was too great. Hearing Lin Shui's reproach, Ji Tianqing could not help but laugh. You were too impatient. How can you blame me? Shui Huan, Bai Long, left emissary Jin, and the others could not help but laugh. Lin Shui glared at Ji Tianqing angrily and ignored him. In less than a day, the news of the mountain gate of the Divine Blade Union being destroyed spread throughout the kingdom of gods. The first to hear the news was, of course, the leader of the Divine Blade Union. The truth was just as Ji Tianqing had expected. A few days ago, the leader of the Divine Blade Union had brought the main force and elites and escaped from the mountain gate. Moreover, they had taken away the important treasures of the mountain gate, which was more than 90% of the cultivation resources. 3 days ago, the leader of the Divine Blade Union had gone to the secret division and the treasury to take away all the important treasures and resources. Although the leader of the Divine Blade Union was furious when he heard that the mountain gate had been destroyed, he was secretly glad. However, he secretly rejoiced. Those who had been killed were ordinary disciples and servants. Their deaths were not a big deal. As long as the main force and elite disciples were still around, and they had 80% of the resources and treasures in their hands, the Divine Blade Union could quickly rise again. The only loss was that the mountain gate that they had built and operated for thousands of years had been destroyed just like that. It was really a pity. However, the leader of the Divine Blade Union firmly believed that as long as they followed Prince Lian's plan, they would be able to kill Tianqing quickly. As long as they killed Tianqing and made a great contribution, Prince Lian would give them more rewards and support. At that time, the Divine Blade Union would rise again and be even more glorious. 6 days later, Ji Tianqing brought the group to the mountain gate of the Wanlu sect. The situation was just as he had expected. The people of the Wanlu sect had already escaped when they heard the news. The dazzling and majestic mountain gate had long since been emptied of people. Let alone the treasury and resources, even the herbs planted in the medicinal field and the divine beasts raised in the beast garden had been taken away. Ji Tianqing was not surprised. He waved his hand and used the sword array to destroy the mountain gate of the Wanlu sect. Nie Feiyun suggested that they go to the secret treasury of the Wanlu sect to take a look. Perhaps the people of the Wanlu sect were lucky and were hiding in the secret treasury and stronghold. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and rejected the proposal. No need to go. The people of the Wanlu sect have enough time to transfer their wealth and resources. As long as their people are still alive, they can take a large number of treasures and resources and disperse to various places. We will be helpless. Nie Feiyun and Lin Shui both asked, then what should we do? What should we do next? Ji Tianqing calmly said, in addition to the destruction of the Spirit Sword sect, the main force and elites of the 7 great sects have been preserved. Moreover, their hatred and anger towards this monarch has also reached the extreme. Next, we will continue south to the Raging Flame Royal City. Prince Lian will certainly gather the main force of the 7 great sects and fight us to the death. The fastest mobile version of the website. After this battle, those who have rendered meritorious service will be rewarded handsomely. Those who die in battle will be rewarded with 3 times the compensation. Kneeling on one knee, the Lian heir hastily complied. He was about to leave the secret room to deliver the order. Wait a moment. Prince Lian suddenly called out to him and added a few more words. Also, send this king's personal decree to Sky Wolf City. Say that the fiends from the Blood Flame Divine Kingdom are massacring outside the city. Order Heavenly Wolf City to immediately dispatch troops to arrest him. There must be no mistakes. Lian heir says yes again before bowing and leaving the secret room. Late at night. Outside Skywolf City, the night sky was as dark as ink and cold winds howled. The mountains in the distance had become undulating shadows, like gods protecting the darkness. Wolf Head Mountain, which was 20,000 miles away from Sky Wolf City, seemed a little strange tonight. Usually, at night, the mountain was the world of beasts, with all kinds of beast roars rising and falling. But tonight, Wolf Head Mountain was unusually quiet. Not only were there no traces of divine beasts, but there were also no roars. The divine beasts that covered the mountain were probably scared away by the experts hiding in the mountain. In the dark forest and valleys, there were hundreds of heaven god experts hiding. Above the mountain peaks and the sky, there were more than 40 divine lords hiding. The first to arrive and lie in ambush were the people of the Divine Saber Union. The leader was the Divine Saber Union's leader, Dao Qianqiu. He was a tall and sturdy old man with a face like purple jade and a head full of white hair. He wore dark golden battle armor and carried 2 dazzling golden divine sabers on his back. His eyes were like torches as he stared at the night sky in the north. His long hair fluttered in the night wind as he exuded a powerful and domineering aura. He had been famous for more than 3,000 years and his strength had reached the peak of the 8th level Divine Lord realm. His saber arts had long reached the peak. Behind Dao Qianqiu stood 2 middle-aged experts, one male and one female. They were both at the 7th level Divine Lord realm. They were the left and right protectors of the Divine Saber Union and had been famous for many years. Apart from that, there were 9 elders in the night sky. They were all mid-level Divine Lords. In the surrounding valleys, forests, and night sky, there were more than 30 low-level Divine Lords. They were all deacons of the Divine Saber Union. Everyone held their breaths and tried their best to hide their auras as they focused on the north. Everyone knew that Tianqing, who had destroyed the Divine Saber Union not long ago, would arrive tonight. Everyone was filled with anger and murderous intent. They were waiting for Tianqing to appear and fight him to the death. Tonight was the night to take revenge. Time passed quietly. Soon, it was the darkest moment of the day. In another hour, dawn would arrive. The Divine Saber Union's members were impatient. A few elders secretly sent voice transmissions to ask Dao Qianqiu. Union Master, it will be dawn soon. Why hasn't that bastard appeared yet? Union Master, did we guard the wrong place? Did that bastard pass by us long ago? Union Master, why don't we take the initiative to search for that bastard? Dao Qianqiu calmly waved his hand when he heard the elders' questions. Don't be impatient. The young prince's orders cannot be disobeyed. The information he gave cannot be doubted. That bastard is very arrogant. Even if he knows that we are here to intercept him, he will not avoid us. Everyone, wait patiently. He will definitely come. Everyone had no choice but to obey Dao Qianqiu's orders. They could only wait patiently. After another 7 minutes, a miracle occurred. A bloody light appeared in the pitch-black night sky in the north. That hazy bloody light was like lightning tearing through the night sky. It wrapped around a pitch-black divine warship and flew across the sky at lightning speed. The first to discover that bloody light were Dao Qianqiu and the left and right protectors. The 3 of them felt their hearts skip a beat. They narrowed their eyes and sneered malevolently. He is here. That bastard is indeed here. I will send a message to the other sects now. The divine warship is traveling through the night sky without concealing itself or concealing its aura. How arrogant! Dao Qianqiu gritted his teeth and muttered. His entire body was bursting with killing intent. His white hair was also dancing wildly. Seeing that bloody light approaching, he decisively waved his hand and gave the order. Disciples of the Divine Saber Union, listen up. Use all your strength to kill that bastard Tianqing at all costs. Following Dao Qianqiu's thunderous voice, the 400-odd Divine Saber Union elites who were lying in ambush in the mountains let out a sonorous roar. Kill! In the next instant, hundreds of divine lights lit up the mountains, illuminating the area within 100 miles. Chapter 3146. Swish. 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 More than 400 disciples of the Divine Saber Union, led by dozens of deacons, charged into the night sky. In an instant, a huge net that covered a radius of 100 miles was formed, blocking the path of the divine warship. Everyone was holding onto their weapons, accumulating their divine power and preparing to unleash their most powerful divine abilities and killing moves. At this moment, the speeding bloody light dissipated. The black divine warship, which was as fast as lightning, suddenly stopped and hovered 20 miles away from the crowd. Seeing this, Dao Qianxiu, the left and right protectors, and the 9 elders hurriedly flew over. Many deacons and disciples wisely suppressed their killing intent and temporarily stopped their attacks. Dao Qianxiu and the left and right protectors stepped out from the crowd and walked toward the divine worship. They shouted angrily, "Jianqing, your grandpa Dao is here. Why don't you surrender?" Their thunderous voice reverberated through the night sky, deafening everyone. The divine worship opened its cabin door, and with a flash of white light, a youth in a white robe walked out with a dignified appearance. Behind this youth in a white robe, several men and women walked out. They were all Sir God experts. Among them were Lin Shui, Sir God Blood Illusion, Bai Long, Left Emissary Jin, and Zhen Hong. Only Nia Feiyun and the Blood Dragon Right Emissary were missing. Nia Feiyun could not show himself for the time being, and the Blood Dragon Right Emissary still had to steer the divine worship. Dao Qianxiu and the left and right protectors immediately locked their gazes on the youth in a white robe and sized him up angrily. When they saw the youth in a white robe clearly, the 3 of them were shocked and secretly put their guard up. He is Jianqing. That bloodthirsty and ferocious demon. Although I have heard of him long ago and have seen his portrait many times, I did not expect him to be even younger than we thought. His strength is also unfathomable. Compared to the young lord, this demon is even more mysterious and unfathomable. He makes people wary and fearful. Dao Qianxiu and the left and right protectors had a preliminary evaluation of Ji Tianqing in their hearts. At this moment, Ji Tianqing calmly looked at Dao Qianxiu and asked, "Are you the alliance master of the Divine Blade Union, Dao Qianxiu?" Dao Qianxiu said with a cold snort, "Little bastard, stop pretending. You personally destroyed our league's mountain gate and killed thousands of our league's disciples. How could you not know who this old man is?" Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and sneered, "Since the Divine Blade Union and I have an irreconcilable enmity, how can you still be so calm? Are you trying to stall for time and wait for the other sects to come and help?" Dao Qianxiu frowned as his thoughts were exposed. That's right, that's what he was thinking. The Blood Illusion God, Bai Long, and the rest were obviously more composed. All of them were silent, holding their swords and sabers as they waited for the other sects to arrive. However, they did not have much confidence in their hearts. With their small number of people, it was already very dangerous for them to deal with more than 400 people from the Divine Blade Union. If the main forces of the other sects arrived, the difference in numbers between the two sides would be even more terrifying. However, when they saw Ji Tianqing's calm and confident demeanor, they were relieved. Since Ji Tianqing was willing to wait, Dao Qianxiu was naturally more than happy to oblige. He and the left and right protectors were even secretly sneering. He. The rumors are true. This kid is indeed extremely arrogant and lawless. If he is not bluffing, how confident must he be to dare to wait for the other sects to arrive? The Divine Blade Union cannot fight alone. We must wait for the other sects to arrive before joining forces to kill this bastard. Since this bastard is so arrogant, there is hope for revenge tonight. In less than 15 minutes, a divine light flew over from the night sky in the west. When the dazzling divine light rushed over with murderous intent, the crowd could see clearly that it was a team of more than 300 people. Without waiting for Ji Tianqing and the others to observe, the leader of the group introduced himself in a loud voice. "Tianqing, you bastard. Overlord Pavilion Su Donglai is here. Tonight, I will take your life to avenge my disciples." Obviously, this team was from Overlord Pavilion. The Pavilion Master, Su Donglai, was an 8th-level Divine Lord. Behind him were the Deputy Pavilion Master and a few elders, all of whom were middle-level Divine Lords. Ji Tianqing only glanced at the people from Overlord Pavilion and ignored them. Su Donglai thought that the Divine Blade Union was fighting with Ji Tianqing and that he would be able to save the situation if he rushed over. He did not expect that the Divine Blade Union and Tianqing's group would be facing each other without any intention of attacking. He had rushed over with his men from Overlord Pavilion, but he was ignored by the two groups of people. It was extremely awkward. The fastest mobile version of the website. Chapter 3147. Ji Tianqing and the others stood in the night sky, waiting for the wind to blow. In the southern night sky, Dao Qianxiu and the Divine Blade Union blocked the way, forming a large encirclement. When the Overlord Pavilion saw that both sides were not moving, they could only stop in the southwest night sky, holding their swords and sabers. Unable to hold back the awkward atmosphere, Su Donglai took 2 steps forward, looked at Dao Qianxiu, and asked for the situation through telepathy. "Senior Dao, what's going on? Our sect received the message and immediately rushed over to help. Your union has already intercepted that scum Tianqing, why haven't you made a move yet? Could it be that the young prince has other orders?" Dao Qianxiu glanced at Su Donglai and couldn't help but say through telepathy, "Overlord Su, you're an old man who has lived for thousands of years. Why are you still so ignorant? Do you still need to ask about the current situation? No matter how much you want to take revenge, you can't rush to kill. If your Overlord Pavilion really rushes in, you'll all be killed in a moment. Wasn't the lesson from before painful enough? Can any of our sects deal with that demon Tianqing?" Su Donglai was 3 feet tall and as strong as an iron tower. His appearance was fierce and valiant, and his personality was also very fiery. His natal divine weapons were 2 thunder god hammers, and his combat power was very strong. It was because of this that he won the title of Overlord Su. However, this also proved that this person was brave but not astute, and had no shrewdness to speak of. After being mocked by Dao Qianxiu, Su Donglai's face was lost, but he could only endure it, not daring to lose his temper. After all, Dao Qianxiu was the leader of a top force and a senior who had made a name for himself earlier. Moreover, they were all allies in the same trench, and they would be fighting side by side in a moment, sharing life and death. No matter what, they had to maintain harmony. After a moment of silence, Su Donglai suppressed the anger in his heart and said to Dao Qianxiu through telepathy, "Senior Dao, you're right. I didn't think it through." Then, Su Donglai and the Overlord Pavilion's people waited patiently. Time continued to pass. After a while, more than 300 elite disciples of the Soaring Rainbow sect flew over in a mighty manner. Then, the elite forces of the Myriad Flow sect, the Mystic Moon sect, the Blue Thunder sect, and the Unique Tower arrived one after another. The elite forces of the 7 major sects had arrived and surrounded Ji Tianqing and the others from 7 directions. There were a total of over 2,500 people, and 90% of them were Heavenly Deity Realm elite experts. The number of lower divine lords reached over 260. There were also over 50 middle divine lords. Even the high divine lords numbered more than 20. Chapter 3148. Before the battle, the disciples of the 7 major sects were full of confidence and high morale. Everyone thought that with more than 2,000 people from the 7 major sects attacking together, they would be able to kill Ji Tianqing in less than 2 rounds. But the truth was the opposite. Ji Tianqing's first attack was like a divine punishment. Both sides had only exchanged 1 round and the divine attacks of the 7 major sects were defeated by the 10,000 swords. Moreover, more than 400 disciples from the 7th to 9th level of the Heavenly God realm died tragically under the 10,000 swords. What kind of shocking reversal was this? For a moment, everyone was shocked to the extreme, dumbfounded. It was only then that the main forces and elites of the 7 major sects realized how terrifying Tianqing was. It was no wonder that this person could stir up chaos in the Bloody Flames Divine Kingdom and set off a bloodbath in the Raging Flames Divine Kingdom. It was no wonder that this person could become Prince Lien's enemy and make Prince Lien suffer losses time and time again. With such terrifying strength, even a 9th level peak monarch god might not be able to compare to him. Just as everyone was in a daze, the Heaven Punishment Sword formation sped up and released more divine giant swords, bursting with even more power. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Sharp ear-piercing sounds kept exploding in the sword formation. Sword light flashed and sword chi crisscrossed. An invisible sword intent covered a radius of a few hundred miles. In just a breath's time, more than 100 elite disciples died tragically under the 10,000 swords. Even those monarch god realm deacons were seriously injured when they were hit by the divine giant swords. The situation became more serious. The elites and main forces of the 7 major sects had no time to be surprised and shocked. Everyone came back to their senses and burst out with their most powerful strength. They displayed their most powerful divine skills to resist the power of the 10,000 swords. 7 huge battle formations were quickly formed. The dazzling divine power light caused chaos in the sword formation. The major sects resisted with all their strength and it was effective. After 10 breaths, more than 300 disciples and more than a dozen monarch god experts could not resist the power of the 10,000 swords and were killed on the spot. Although this scene was tragic, compared to before, they had indeed stabilized their footing. In addition, the sect leaders and elders of the 7 major sects tried their best to resist the 10,000 swords and even took the initiative to attack Ji Tianqing and the others. As a result, Ji Tianqing, Lin Shui, and the others had no choice but to wield their Kenshin weapons and attack with all their might. Starry River Break. Ji Tianqing roared in rage. Young master, are you going to intercept the Divine Blade Union and the Myriad Flows sect by yourself? Are you sure? Brat, don't force yourself. Ji Tianqing didn't bother to explain. He immediately raised the Sword of Burial of Heaven and charged towards the Divine Saber Union and Myriad Flow sect with an unparalleled stance. Heavenly Dragon World Slash. Dragon Elephant Divine Fist. He swung his sword with his right hand and slashed out a 20-mile-long golden dragon sword light that swept away the people of the 2 sections. Clenching his left hand into a fist, he punched out a mountain-sized dragon and elephant shadow towards Dao Qianqiu and sect master Wan Lu. In an instant, more than 20 divine lord powerhouses were forced back by the golden dragon sword light, their faces filled with shock. 6 divine lords couldn't dodge in time and were struck by the golden dragon sword light. Their divine bodies crumbled and their divine heads were shattered. As for the dragon and elephant shadow that destroyed everything, it forced Dao Qianqiu and sect master Wan Lu to retreat in a panic, allowing them to escape the calamity. Before the people from the 2 sects could recover from their shock, Ji Tianqing swung the Sword of Burial of Heaven again and used all sorts of Sword Dao superpowers. Swish! 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 Instantly, the resplendent sword light that covered the sky and carried the power to destroy everything enveloped the deacons and elders. The violent and domineering sword intent enveloped the low-level and mid-level divine lords, causing them to flee in panic. Most of them managed to escape, but there were still a few divine lord powerhouses that couldn't escape from the sword light that filled the sky. They were turned into a bloody pulp on the spot. At the same time, Ji Tianqing used Sky-Piercing Finger and Sky-Splitting Palm to force Dao Qianqiu and sect master Wan Lu to retreat. It was a pity that the 2 8th-degree realm sect masters were once unparalleled powerhouses who could summon the wind and rain. Now that they couldn't defeat Ji Tianqing even after joining forces, they were extremely aggrieved. The 2 of them were forced to retreat again and could only watch as the deacons and elders under them were killed, but they were powerless to save them. Just like that, 3 breaths' time passed. When Lin Shui, Sir God Blood Illusion and the rest saw how powerful Ji Tianqing was, the doubts in their hearts were dispelled. Since Ji Tianqing alone could suppress the Divine Blade Union and sect master Wan Lu, they had nothing to worry about. Therefore, Lin Shui, Sir God Blood Illusion, Bai Long and the rest tried their best to kill the 5 sects and used all sorts of superpowers. If it was just the few of them, they definitely wouldn't be able to stop the people from the 5 sections. But with the help of the Heaven Eradication Sword Array, thousands of divine giant swords continued to kill the people from the 5 sections. This reduced the pressure on Lin Shui, Sir God Blood Illusion and the rest by a lot. They didn't need to risk their lives to fight with the people from the 5 sections. They only needed to use all their strength to display all sorts of superpowers and ultimate skills to stop the people from the 5 sects, and it would be a success. The deacons and elders from the 5 sects were originally unable to move an inch because of the Heaven Eradication Sword Array's attacks. Now that they were met with Lin Shui and the rest's attacks, they found it even more difficult to move forward and were in a perilous situation. 100 breaths time passed. The people from the 5 sects huddled together and only managed to break through 80 miles. But the price they paid was extremely heavy. Close to half of the deacons and elders died under the bombardment of the 10,000 swords, and their god bodies and god sparks were turned into dregs. The path to break through was so difficult that it made the people from the 5 sects feel extremely hopeless. They were even thinking that if they didn't risk their lives to break through and fought with the people from Divine Blade Union and Sect Master Wan Lu, would the outcome be better? But when the people from the 5 sects turned back and looked at the battlefield in the middle of the sword array, they instantly dismissed this thought. Because Divine Blade Union and Sect Master Wan Lu's situation was even more miserable than theirs. Ji Tianqing alone, with the help of the Heaven Eradication Sword Array, had actually caused the people from Divine Blade Union and Sect Master Wan Lu to throw away their helmets and armor and be utterly defeated. Previously, there were still 60 Overseer God experts, but now, more than half of them had been killed. There were only 20 or so people left, and they were still fighting a bloody battle, but they were also arrows at the end of their flight. These people were the elders, guardians and vice sect masters of Divine Blade Union and Sect Master Wan Lu. Basically, they were all Sir Gods of the 5th degree realm and above. Those low-level Divine Lord-level deacons had long been killed off by Ji Tianqing. Even so, the surviving elders and protectors were covered in blood, and they were in an extremely miserable state. Even though Dao Qianqiu and Sect Master Wan Lu had also changed their strategy. They joined forces with the elders and guardians to launch a strong attack on Ji Tianqing. But the effect was minimal, and Ji Tianqing could easily avoid most of the attacks. Occasionally, there were some secret arts that he couldn't avoid, but he could easily withstand it with his strong defense. Even if the experts from the 2 sects used all their strength to deal a fatal blow, Ji Tianqing really couldn't avoid it. He could also use the infinite sky of turbidity to resolve it easily. All in all, he was in an invincible position. No matter how the people from Divine Blade Union and Sect Master Wan Lu attacked, he wasn't injured. Chapter 3150. In the end, this earth-shattering battle lasted for nearly an hour before it finally came to an end. The people from the 5 major sects were the first to perish. Almost all the elders and protectors were dead. The few remaining sect leaders were also covered in blood and looked miserable. Their fighting strength had greatly decreased. At this moment, they were still 1,000 miles away from the edge of the heaven-destroying sword formation. Now that they had fallen into such a situation, the sect leaders were in complete despair. They knew that they would never be able to break out of the encirclement in this lifetime. Now that they were at the end of their rope, there was only one way to save their lives. That was to meet up with the elites from the Divine Knife Alliance and the Thousand Flows sect and fight until the end. However, when they saw the situation of the Divine Knife Alliance and the Thousand Flows sect, they felt a chill from head to toe. This was because the people from the Divine Knife Alliance and the Thousand Flows sect had also suffered heavy casualties. Almost all the middle-level Divine Lords had been killed. Only a few people were left. They were still fighting a bloody battle, but they were like cornered beasts. Among them were Dao Qianqiu, the left and right protectors of the Divine Knife Alliance, and the Thousand Flows sect leader and deputy sect leader. These 5 elites were all high-level Divine Lords. It would be difficult to kill them in a short period of time with the heaven-destroying sword formation. Ji Tianqing was alone. No matter how strong he was, he could not kill them quickly. The situation was in a stalemate. However, overall, Ji Tianqing still had the upper hand. Not only was he uninjured, but his fighting strength was also at its peak. His divine power was still abundant. It was as if he would never be injured or tired. He was undefeatable. Such a strong performance made Dao Qianxiu, the Thousand Flows sect leader, and the others feel completely hopeless and helpless. My God! How can there be such a perverted guy in this world? After fighting for so long, even if he was made of iron, he would still be full of holes. What kind of monster is he? Why is he not injured at all? Why is his fighting strength still so strong? It's only now that this seat finally understands why the little prince calls him a fated enemy. This lesson made us understand that we should never underestimate our enemies, especially those who are famous. Unfortunately, when we understood this lesson, it was already too late. If I could turn back time, even if I betrayed the little prince, would never have participated in the assassination. Ha ha ha. We've all been used as cannon fodder by the little prince. We're destined to die here today. The sect leaders and sect masters all felt the same, gloomy and hopeless. They were all terrified and regretful. Even if they could not kill those high-level divine lords, they could hold them back and greatly reduce the pressure on Ji Tianqing. This was tonight's final battle. At the same time, it was also the battle of life and death for the 7 major sections. The 7 sect leaders and the 10 high-level divine lords spared no expense and used all their strength to fight Ji Tianqing and the others. But unfortunately, arms could not win against thighs. The difference in strength was there, and it was not something that could be changed by courage and fighting spirit. 30 breaths later, the sect leader of the Soaring Rainbow sect was killed by Ji Tianqing, dying tragically under the burial of heaven. 50 breaths later, the right protector of the Divine Blade Union was killed, his divine body in divine spark crumbling. 100 breaths later, the left protector of the Divine Blade Union and the sect leader of the Blue Thunder sect were killed by Ji Tianqing. As time passed, the 10 high-level divine lords were killed one after another, and the number of people kept decreasing. 15 minutes later, the 5 sect leaders were killed. 2 of them died under the joint attack of Lin Shui, Blood Illusion God, and the others. Only Dao Qianxiu and Luo Lushui survived to the end. Of course, the 2 of them were also riddled with wounds and broken limbs. Their fighting strength was extremely weak. Dao Qianxiu was still domineering. Knowing that he was going to die, he detonated himself, wanting to perish together with Ji Tianqing. However, Luo Lushui still had hope and did not detonate himself. Instead, he hurriedly dodged. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing used his ultimate skill and used the World Slash to instantly kill Dao Qianxiu, interrupting his detonation. Of the 10 high-level divine lords, only Luo Lushui was still alive. Not only did he not detonate himself, but he also shouted loudly for the battle to stop. He wanted to surrender and be loyal to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing rejected him on the spot, saying that he did not need captives. However, Luo Lushui said firmly, "No. That old fellow Nie Feiyun is not dead. He must have surrendered to you. Since you can forgive him, why can't you forgive me? As long as you spare my life, I will definitely be of greater use to you. I will be of greater help to you than Nie Feiyun. You are very sincere, but I don't need it. Goodbye." Ji Tianqing did not hesitate at all. He directly waved the burial of heaven and killed him. At this point, the 7 major sects were completely annihilated. Chapter 3151. Luo Yoshui's identity, status, and fame were all higher than Nie Feiyun's. If it wasn't a matter of life and death, how could he lower his proud head? Even if it was for survival, he surrendered to Ji Tianqing. Who could guarantee how much sincerity he had? After saving his life, his hatred and humiliation would flare up, and he would most likely seek revenge. After all, he was the sect master of the Thousand Flows sect, a top figure of the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. How could he swallow this anger? Although Luo Luxue might have more information and secrets than Nie Feiyan. However, after giving it some thought, Ji Tianqing decided that it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble. He would kill Luo Luxue on the spot to prevent future trouble. After all, the 9 major sects under Prince Lian had been destroyed. The only people he could use now were the people of the He Tian sect, the Raging Flame branch, and the powerhouses of the Raging Flame royal family. Ji Tianqing's next target was to point his sword at the imperial city and kill Prince Lian. Of course, if he could get the secrets of the Great Yan Empire from Prince Lian, it would be best if he could get information about the boundless heaven continent and the Shura God Emperor. The battle was over, and the world returned to peace. It was morning, and the sun had risen. Ji Tianqing and the others' battle record was amazing enough to shock the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. But Lin Shui, Shui Huan, Bai Long, and the others were all heavily injured and covered in wounds and blood. They rested while cleaning up the battlefield and collecting the spoils of war. The battlefield with a radius of 2,000 miles was originally a rolling mountain range full of ravines and deep valleys. But now, it had been razed to the ground, and the central area was deeply sunken. In a few years, the water on this battlefield would accumulate and become a large lake in the vast mountain range. The people who participated in this battle were the main forces and powerhouses of the 7 major sections. They were all well equipped and had elite strength. Moreover, the 7 major sects had evacuated in advance and taken away the treasures in their vaults. Most of the cultivation resources and treasures were carried by the sect masters, protectors, and elders, and stored in the interspatial rings. So, Lin Shui and the others were the most excited about the spoils of war this time. In the battlefield, they found nearly 2,000 spatial rings and more than 1,000 sets of usable divine weapons. He casually opened a few spatial rings, and there was a dazzling collection. There were all kinds of divine stones, divine pills, divine materials, and rare treasures. It was a feast for the eyes. The various sects' celestial deity realm disciples often carried several million on them. As for the disciples of the Divine Blade Union and the Myriad Flow sect, they were even wealthier. Their belongings were worth tens of millions. As for the deacons of the various sects, the resources stored in their interspatial rings were worth more than 100 million. As for those middle-level Divine Lord Elders, high-level Divine Lord Protectors, and sect masters, the amount of wealth in their interspatial rings was immeasurable. Each of them had cultivation resources worth billions, as well as all sorts of divine items and treasures that were hard to estimate. After a rough estimation, the total value of the spoils they had obtained was over 100 billion. Such a huge amount of wealth was already comparable to Ji Tianqing's savings. Shui Lin, Sir God Blood Illusion and Left Emissary Jean had never seen such a huge amount of resources and treasures in their lives. Everyone was in high spirits, cheering and exclaiming from time to time. Shui Lin lamented, cultivation resources and treasures worth more than 100 billion. If I were to take them all for myself, I wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources for the rest of my life. Of course, she was just saying it. She didn't really have the thought of taking them all for herself. Shui Lin, Left Emissary Jean, Zhen Hong and the rest also understood that she was just lamenting and shocked. After all, they had the same thought and were all shocked. After a few minutes, everyone finished cleaning up the battlefield and counting their spoils. There was a total of 2,010 interspatial rings, more than 1,200 sets of divine weapons and equipment, and more than 100 pieces of Divine Lord Expert's Godhead fragments. Everyone handed these spoils to Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing wasn't just the leader of the group, he was also the core of this battle. Most of the middle-level and high-level divine lords were killed by him. More than half of the 2,000 disciples of the 7 major sects were killed by the Heaven Punishment Sword formation. It could be said that 70% of the 2,000 people of the 7 major sects were killed by him. Therefore, the spoils had to be distributed by him. Everyone felt that even if Ji Tianqing took 90% of the spoils, it would be very fair for him to only take out 10% of the resources to share with everyone. However, Ji Tianqing clearly didn't think so. He only wanted the 100 pieces of Godhead fragments and the interspatial rings of the 7 sect masters and sect leaders. The remaining 2,000 interspatial rings, more than 1,000 sets of equipment, and items worth 60 to 70 billion divine stones were distributed to everyone. Last night's battle was extremely dangerous. Everyone fought to the end, bathed in blood, and contributed greatly. I haven't sorted out these spoils yet. I will distribute them to everyone after sorting them out. After he finished speaking, Ji Tianqing put away the spoils of war. He would distribute them to everyone after sorting them out. No one had any objections. Lin Shui took out the divine worship and everyone prepared to leave. However, at this moment, a dazzling divine light lit up in the direction of Sky Wolf City. A group of elite warriors wearing armor and wielding sabers, swords, spears, and halberds appeared a few thousand miles away from the group and charged toward them at lightning speed. In the face of such a sudden situation, everyone frowned and observed vigilantly. They saw that there were more than 1,000 people in the group, all wearing standard black armor and helmets. They looked murderous. At the front of the group was a middle-level divine lord wearing golden armor and a dark red cloak. He was dressed like a general or commander. Behind this person were 10 lower-level divine lords wearing silver armor and carrying swords at their waists. They looked like they had high official positions. As for the 1,000 warriors, they were all celestial god experts with strength between level 4 and level 8. Ji Tianqing and the others could tell at a glance that this group was not from a sect. They looked more like the guards of a city or a troop from a military camp. Since the group came from Sky Wolf City, Ji Tianqing frowned and muttered, could it be the city guards of Sky Wolf City? Are they also here to get involved? In a flash, the 1,000-man troop arrived. When they were still 100 miles away, the 1,000-man troop spread out and formed a huge encirclement, surrounding Ji Tianqing and the others. The golden-armored general in the lead shouted coldly in a booming voice, "Who are you to dare to wantonly slaughter civilians outside Sky Wolf City? Surrender immediately." A few lower-level divine lords in silver armor also roared with murderous intent, bolstering their momentum. "Foreign race thieves, this is Sky Wolf City's territory. Only death awaits you for daring to cause trouble here. We are the city guards of Sky Wolf City. We are under the orders of the city lord to capture the rebels. You cruel and bloodthirsty thugs, why don't you surrender now? Damn thugs, you are already surrounded. Don't even think of escaping." Let's take advantage of the fact that they are weak and haven't recovered from their injuries and encircle them now. Although Ji Tianqing, Shui Lin, and the rest were all monarch god powerhouses. If it was any other day, these city guards would have to be wary. But now, Shui Lin, Shui Huan, and the others were in a sorry state. They were covered in blood and injuries and looked very weak. Therefore, these city guards were not worried, nor were they afraid of the crowd. The golden-armored commander listened to the instigation of the captains and decisively waved his hand, giving the order to attack. "City guards, listen to my orders. Immediately arrest the culprit who killed the innocent and bring him back to the city lord's mansion to be dealt with. If there is any resistance, kill without mercy." As his voice fell, the 10 silver-armored captains waved their divine swords in unison and roared as they charged toward Ji Tianqing and the others. Thousands of city guards also let out deafening battle cries as they charged from all directions. In an instant, the sky within a radius of 100 miles was covered by a dazzling divine light. Sword light and sword light covered the sky and all kinds of dazzling divine light poured down like a flood. Soon, Ji Tianqing and the others were about to be engulfed by the radiance of blades and divine spells. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing calmly ordered, "All of you, enter the divine worship and rest. Leave these city guards to me." If this had been in the past, Xue Lin and the others would have been worried and stopped him when they heard this. After all, it was too dangerous for him to fight against 1,000 people alone. It was too exaggerated. However, after a few battles, everyone had witnessed Ji Tianqing's terrifying methods. Every time, they would be shocked. Now, he had become an undefeatable legend in everyone's hearts. He was definitely powerful and invincible. Xue Lin and the others did not hesitate and immediately entered the divine worship. In the blink of an eye, only Ji Tianqing was left in the sky. He put away the divine worship and formed a divine seal with both hands as he brazenly used a sword technique. Sword rain. As he roared, thousands of giant swords appeared in the sky and shot down like meteors. Each giant sword was thousands of feet tall and glowed with colorful light. They contained unparalleled divine power and violent sword intent that could destroy everything. Of course, the thousands of giant swords still needed a breath's time to fall. On the other hand, the city guard's attack drowned Ji Tianqing first. At this critical moment, he did not hesitate to use the infinite sky of chaos. His body became transparent and illusory. He became one with tens of thousands of miles of heaven and earth as if he did not exist in this world and was not affected at all. Swoosh! 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 The sword light covered the sky and cut through the sky without any obstruction. It passed through Ji Tianqing's body and scattered on the ground. Instantly, hundreds of miles of land was blasted into ruins. The surrounding mountains collapsed. And Ji Tianqing was safe and sound. He still stood in the sky with a calm expression. Seeing this, the golden-armored commander and the 10 silver-armored captains were all stunned. They were extremely shocked. Even many of the city guards looked as if they had seen a ghost and exclaimed in disbelief. No one dared to believe that Ji Tianqing actually had such a strange method to easily resolve everyone's encirclement. At this moment, the golden-armored commander and the silver-armored captains suddenly had a bad feeling. They realized that the black-haired foreign race youth in front of them was ridiculously powerful. He was not someone they could provoke. Also, they would have to pay a heavy price. Because the thousands of giant swords that covered the sky had already descended. The terrifying divine power and sword intent had already enveloped everyone. They were terrified and had a premonition that death was approaching. Boom, 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 boom. In the next moment, the thousands of giant swords slammed down fiercely, covering a radius of 300 miles. The earth-shattering sound immediately reverberated through the sky and spread for thousands of miles. This area immediately became chaotic. Dust filled the sky. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. The ground cracked and collapsed. It was as if doomsday had arrived. The golden-armored commander and the 10 silver-armored captains took out their life-saving divine weapons at the critical moment and used their unique skills to block the attack of the thousands of swords with all their strength. They were quite lucky. The golden-armored commander was slightly injured. The silver-armored captains were severely injured. Only 4 of them were killed on the spot. As for the thousands of city guards, they were not so lucky and did not have enough strength. Under the attack of the thousands of swords, they exploded into a bloody mist and dust. They were directly killed. When the thousands of giant swords dissipated, only a few lucky city guards were still alive. 99% of them had disappeared. Seeing this scene, the golden-armored commander and the silver-armored captains felt a chill down their spines. They were in despair. Chapter 3153. The chaotic sky gradually calmed down. The previously bustling sky had now become incomparably cold and cheerless. Out of more than 1,010 people, only 10 or so were left. Furthermore, all of them were injured and covered in blood. They looked battered and exhausted. The stunned golden-armored commander and silver-armored captains finally regained their senses and immediately cried out in horror. Terrifying! It's too terrifying. He only used one move and killed all of our warriors. How can there be such a ferocious and terrifying person in this world? What kind of strength does he have? Devil. He's simply a devil. The silver-armored captains exclaimed. Their voices were trembling in fear. The golden-armored commander's face was also very pale. His forehead was covered in cold sweat and his eyes were filled with despair. They watched as Ji Tianqing stepped across the sky and raised his right hand, about to use his divine power again. Everyone knew that if the next divine power descended, they would all die. At the moment of life and death, the golden-armored commander roared loudly, "Stop! You devil, are you crazy? I'm the commander of the Heavenly Wolf City Guards. The Heavenly Wolf Commandery Lord personally appointed me. I'm also the general that protects Heavenly Wolf City. Furthermore, I'm a noble conferred by the royal family. If you dare to kill me, you'll be making an enemy of the Heavenly Wolf Commandery. You have no regard for the law and publicly trampled on the laws of the kingdom of gods. You're making an enemy of the royal family and the kingdom of gods." The golden-armored commander spoke quickly. He had shouted so much in one breath, but he still felt that it was not enough. He continued shouting, "Kid, I advise you not to make a mistake. You killed more than 1,000 city guards and wanted to kill me. The Heavenly Wolf Commandery will definitely not let you off. The royal family will also do their best to encircle and annihilate you. If they don't punish you, where will the kingdom of God's laws and the royal family's dignity be? Even if you have extraordinary means, you're alone. How can you fight against the entire kingdom of gods?" On the surface, it sounded like the golden-armored commander was persuading Ji Tianqing in using the Heavenly Wolf Commandery and the kingdom of God's royal family to intimidate Ji Tianqing. But in reality, he only wanted to preserve his life. He now believed that the city lord had sent him on this mission to send him to his death as cannon fodder. However, Ji Tianqing remained unmoved and continued to approach the golden-armored commander. He said expressionlessly, "If you want to be cannon fodder, you should have the awareness of being cannon fodder. Since you've chosen to die, why should you regret it? If you do not die, the Skywolf City Lord will not achieve his goal. He will definitely be displeased. Therefore, it's better for you all to die." As soon as he finished speaking, Ji Tianqing waved his right hand and shot out dozens of dazzling golden sword lights that enveloped the golden armor commander, silver armor captain, and the others. Swish! Swish! A burst of dazzling sword light flashed. The golden-armored commander and the others didn't even have time to cry out before they were torn apart by the sword light. Blood rained down from the sky, and a few godheads flew out. They fled toward Heavenly Wolf City in a panic. Ji Tianqing waved his hand again, releasing more than 10 sword lights, shattering the divine deity. Dozens of shards of divinity fell from the sky. Ji Tianqing's figure flashed, and he put the godhead fragments into his interspatial ring. He didn't stay any longer. He took out the divine worship and entered it. Swish! The palm-sized divine worship immediately returned to its normal size and became 1,000 feet long. Left emissary Jin and right emissary Blood Dragon steered the divine worship and streaked across the sky, turning into a black beam of light that headed south. 300 miles away from the battlefield, there were 2 heavily injured city guards covered in blood. They were hiding in the forest and gasping for breath. They had been at the edge of the battlefield and were very lucky to have escaped death and survived. Just now, they had witnessed thousands of city guards being killed in an instant. The commander and captain had also been killed by Ji Tianqing. The 2 of them were scared out of their wits. They thought that Ji Tianqing would kill them all. They didn't expect Ji Tianqing to ignore them and fly away on the divine worship. Seeing the divine worship disappear into the horizon, the 2 of them heaved a sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from their shoulders. Phew! Luckily, that guy didn't discover us. We managed to survive. That guy is extremely powerful. He killed thousands of people in an instant. How could he not discover us? He only treated us like ants and ignored us. That's right. What should we do now? Return to Sky Wolf City to report? Or escape? Return to the city, my ass. Didn't you hear what that kid said? The city lord knows who he is and deliberately sent us to our deaths. The commander and captain were all killed, and only the two of us were left. Who would believe that we were lucky enough to survive? If you dare to return to Sky Wolf City, I guarantee that you won't live to see tomorrow's sun. You're right. Let's not return to the city. Let's quickly leave this place. Anyway, everyone has been killed. The city lord will mistakenly think that we are dead and probably won't pursue the matter. After the two surviving city guards secretly discussed for a moment, they did not return to Celestial Wolf City. Instead, they fled without a trace. Inside the divine worship, in the conference hall, Lin Shui, Blood Illusion, Gold Left Emissary, Blood Dragon, White Dragon, and Zhen Hong were all present. Everyone looked at Ji Tianqing, who was sitting at the head of the table, with concern and worry in their eyes. Lin Shui smiled and said, "You killed those city guards so quickly. I thought that you used that sword array again. I didn't expect that you would have so many powerful sword arts in addition to the sword array." Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said indifferently, "They're just a bunch of ants. They won't take up too much of my time." Blood Illusion frowned and said worriedly, "Young master, although we all know that you are extremely powerful and are unrivaled in the entire Raging Flame Divine Kingdom, you should have left earlier. But you should have just left and not killed all the city guards." Gold Left Emissary also had the same idea. He nodded and said, "Young master, those city guards have different identities. They represent Sky Wolf City, Sky Wolf County, and the Divine Kingdom's royal family. In the wilderness, we fought with the people of the major sections. Even if we fought until the sky turned dark, the Raging Flame royal family could pretend not to know. But you killed more than 1,000 city guards like that. This will definitely shock the entire court. The entire Sky Wolf County and the Raging Flame royal family will do their best to encircle and annihilate us." The Blood Dragon Right Emissary and Zhen Hong were also aware of this point and nodded in agreement. Only White Dragon and Lin Shui didn't care about it. "We already killed them. What's the point of saying this now? To my master, the Raging Flame royal family is nothing to fear. Didn't he kill the ruler of the Blood Flame Divine Kingdom before?" Blood Illusion immediately retorted, "But the situation is different now." Seeing this, Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, "You don't need to argue. I have my own plans. The royal family and Prince Lien know my whereabouts and purpose. The royal family didn't intervene before because Prince Lien still had a powerful force. But now that the 7 major sects are gone, Prince Lien's power is greatly reduced. I can only ask the royal family to take action. If the Raging Flame royal family wants to deal with me, they need a legitimate excuse." Thus, the Heavenly Wolf City Lord sent the city guards to their deaths. In any case, I don't refuse anyone. Whoever wants to die, I'll satisfy them. The Raging Flame royal family is no exception. Chapter 3154. Raging Flame Royal City. In the same resplendent palace, in a secret room filled with divine power. Since last night, Prince Lien had not circulated his energy to treat his injuries. On the surface, he looked like he was resting in the divine liquid pool. In reality, he was waiting with some apprehension, unease, and anticipation. Although he was far away in Royal City, he was concerned about the situation in Celestial Wolf City. To him, the result of last night's battle was of utmost importance. The 7 major sects had attacked with hatred. More than 2,000 elite forces. Could they kill Tianqing? Prince Lien was not confident, not even 10% sure. He had a premonition that the elites of the seven sects would most likely die under Ji Tianqing's sword. If that was the case, after the seven sects were destroyed, Ji Tianqing would head south and head straight for Royal City. How would he deal with that? At the same time, he still had a sliver of hope. Dao Qianqiu, Luo Lushui, and the others were all high-ranked divine lords with rich battle experience. More than a dozen high-ranked divine lords, dozens of mid-ranked divine lords, and nearly 200 low-ranked divine lords. Such a powerful lineup should be able to kill Tianqing, right? Even a half-step divine king would have to die on the spot, let alone a peak divine lord of the 9th degree. When he thought of this, Prince Lien could not help but pray that the experts of the seven sects would be able to kill Ji Tianqing and make a great contribution. Under such a complicated state of mind, the night quickly passed. It was early morning. Prince Lien could not suppress the anticipation in his heart and opened his eyes. He wanted to summon Lien Heir several times to ask about the situation in Celestial Wolf City. However, in order to maintain his calm and confident demeanor, he held himself back. About half an hour later, the door to the secret room lit up with divine light and a sound came from it. Obviously, since Lien Heir was asking for an audience outside the secret room, he must have important news to report. Prince Lien immediately perked up and waved his hand to open the door to the secret room. Creak creak creak, with a soft sound, the door to the secret room opened. Lien Heir quickly walked into the secret room and went down on one knee in front of the divine liquid pool. As he bowed, Prince Lien quietly observed his expression. The Lien Heir's expression was solemn. His lips were pursed and his eyelids drooped. His tone was low and forceful. Prince Lien had a bad premonition when he saw this. As expected, the Lien Heir straightforwardly reporting to your highness, Heavenly Wolf City has sent a message, reporting the results of last night's decisive battle. The situation was just as you expected. The elite forces of the seven major sects were no match for Tianqing and the rest and were completely annihilated. Prince Lien expressionlessly said, "This king instructed the Heavenly Wolf City Lord to send a group of city guards to their deaths in order to incite public anger in Tianqing and give Chang'e an excuse to make a move. This was a very simple scheme, not a crafty one. If this king can think of it, Tianqing can naturally understand it as well. But this king's true goal was to probe his background and see how deep it is. If he didn't tangle with the city guards and chose to flee Heavenly Wolf City, it means that he still has some misgivings and doesn't dare to become enemies with the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. But he didn't have any misgivings and directly killed the city guards. What does this mean? He simply doesn't care about the revenge of the royal family. He has absolute confidence in dealing with this king and has enough strength to deal with the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom. Moreover, he might have already known that Chang'e is loyal to this king." The Lien Heir was greatly shocked and exclaimed in disbelief, "How? How is this possible? The relationship between your highness and the royal family is a major secret. How could that bastard know?" Prince Lien's expression was sinister as he coldly sneered. "Don't forget, Nia Feiyun might not be dead yet. That old bastard is really cunning and can't be underestimated. This king is increasingly suspicious. In order to survive, he sought refuge with Tianqing and provided a lot of secrets and information to Tianqing. Otherwise, how could Tianqing have been able to find the target so quickly and accurately when dealing with the seven great sects and the Spirit Sword sect?" The Lien Heir suddenly understood and angrily nodded. "Nia Feiyun, that scoundrel, actually became a traitor and betrayed your highness. He deserves to die 10,000 times. Prince Lien calmed his anger and waved his hand. "It's useless to talk about this now. Tianqing will soon arrive at the royal city. Immediately send a message and have the people of the Raging Flame branch gather and be on standby. There will be a decisive battle outside the royal city within a month or 10 days. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 3155. Sirius County. In a vast mountain near the border. This area was very desolate, surrounded by mountains for hundreds of thousands of miles. In the deep mountains, there were few people. Who knew how many ferocious beasts were hidden? Fortunately, this area was rich in divine power and was also a place rich in resources. It was suitable for exploration and cultivation. Ji Tianqing and the others took the divine ship and stopped when they passed by this area. They hid in the belly of a 1,000-foot mountain and opened up a cave as a temporary cultivation place. Lin Shui shrank the divine ship to 10 feet and placed it in the cave. She, Blood Illusion God, Gold Left Emissary, Blood Dragon Right Emissary, and the others entered the divine ship to recuperate. Zhenhong's injuries were more serious. After all, she entered the state of madness in every battle and transformed into a 1,000-foot-tall dragon-blooded war goddess. She was too big a target and difficult to dodge. Her attacks were too powerful, so of course, her injuries were serious. Ji Tianqing trusted her more, so he took her into the Jiutian Tenju Tower to cultivate in the distorted time and space. This was her first time entering the distorted time and space. She was immediately stunned by the gorgeous scene in front of her. Especially when she learned that the flow of time here was 50 times faster than the outside world, she was even more surprised and shocked. After the initial shock, she came to a realization. She finally understood why Ji Tianqing's strength had skyrocketed. No wonder young master's strength has obvious growth every time he goes into seclusion. The longest is half a month, and the shortest is 3 to 5 days. It turns out that he's cultivating in seclusion here. 1 day here is equivalent to 50 days in the outside world. It was not difficult for Zhenhong to guess that Ji Tianqing's cultivation time was 50 times longer than the other God clan members. His talent was also outstanding. In addition, his identity and origin were mysterious. He had endless resources and super skills. It was natural for him to have such terrifying strength now. As Ji Tianqing flew in the distorted time and space, he soon saw several familiar figures. Yin Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, White Dragon, Black Dragon, and Qian Yu. Everyone had met before. Without Ji Tianqing's introduction, Zhenhong knew that these were the people closest to him. At the same time, she understood that today was the most important day of her life. From this moment on, it meant that Ji Tianqing truly trusted and accepted her. She also became one of the closest people to Ji Tianqing. In addition to being touched, he was also grateful. This was because she knew that a genius like Ji Tianqing, a peerless expert, was destined to have no lack of followers. If they were able to follow by his side, not only would they be able to obtain care and guidance, they would even be able to create all sorts of miracles and glory with him, and they would even be able to witness him walk to the peak of the divine Tao. To the ordinary Protoss, this was an opportunity and blessing that they would never encounter in their entire lives. Yin Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, and the others were all cultivating. They were about to break through again. Especially Ji Wushuang, he was currently at the peak of the celestial deity realm and was about to break through to the divine lord realm very soon. Bai Long hadn't started cultivating yet. He greeted Zhenhong and went to find a place to heal himself. Ji Tianqing reminded Zhenhong, this distorted space-time is the place for us to rest and cultivate. You just need to find a place to recuperate from your injuries. After your injuries have healed, you can cultivate in seclusion for a period of time. I'm sure you've benefited a lot from the previous few battles. You must not miss this rare opportunity to comprehend. Zhenhong quickly nodded and said, don't worry, young master. Zhenhong knows what to do. I won't disturb everyone's cultivation. Ji Tianqing immediately chuckled and said, of course I know you. I definitely won't disturb them. I'm just afraid that they will disturb you. However, you don't have to worry. They have all accepted you. They have no ill intentions towards you. Zhenhong naturally understood this. She just smiled and nodded, saying no more. She bowed to Ji Tianqing and left. She found a place tens of thousands of feet away, took a divine pill, and began to cultivate to heal herself. Ji Tianqing also did not delay and hurriedly sat down to meditate and cultivate. He first sorted out those divine spark fragments from the spoils of war. On the whole, it could be seen that they were the divine spark fragments of 136 divine lords. But in reality, many of the divine spark fragments were not complete and were somewhat missing. Fortunately, the missing divine spark fragments were all those low-ranked divine lords, and a few middle-ranked divine lords. As for the 7 major sects masters and protectors, they were all high-ranked divine lords. Their divine spark fragments could still be pieced together completely. Thus, Ji Tianqing did not fuss about it. He cast the devouring divine ability and quickly devoured piece after piece of divine spark fragments. While absorbing large amounts of divine power, he also selected usable divine Tao laws from the divine spark fragments. This process was relatively long and also tested his patience. But he had cultivated for so many years and had long gotten used to it. After entering a focused state of cultivation, he even forgot the passage of time. Unknowingly, 3 months had passed. A full 90 days' time, Ji Tianqing only finished devouring and refining over 130 divine spark fragments. At the same time, he even stripped away 18 types of divine Tao laws from the divine spark fragments. Originally, he already grasped 292 types of laws. Adding on the newly added 18 types of laws, it reached as many as 310. Such a horrifying number of laws, only divine king powerhouses could achieve it. Surveying the entire Great Yan Empire. No, placing in the entire North Heaven region, even the entire boundless Heaven continent, there was absolutely not a divine lord who could grasp 310 types of laws like him. 300 types of divine Tao laws was the insurmountable chasm between divine lords and divine kings. And now, Ji Tianqing did it. He broke this chasm and created another miracle invisibly. However, if he did not say it out, no one would know the existence of this miracle. Apart from the number of laws increasing, his strength also skyrocketed more than 3 times, reaching the peak of the 7th stage realm. He was already not far away from the 8th level Divine Lord realm. Ji Tianqing stopped cultivating and opened both eyes. Such a delightful harvest, but he was not agitated or overjoyed. Instead, he heaved a sigh. Sigh. The more divine Tao laws I grasp, the fewer laws I can refine. Interesting, powerful, high enough grade divine Tao laws are already getting lesser and lesser. Furthermore, the divine Tao laws that those divine lords grasp, 95% of them are all similar. At this rate, even if I refine several hundred sets of divine spark fragments at once, the laws obtained will also get lesser and lesser. No choice, after all, these people are all divine lords. I reckon that only by killing a divine king can I obtain large amounts of divine Tao laws. Ji Tianqing muttered to himself. After resting for a moment, he started to get busy with another matter again. Cleaning and organizing the spoils of war from before. Spoils of war worth over 100 billion were stored in over 2,000 interspatial rings. Wanting to sort them out was simply a massive project. If it were a mortal, they would not be able to clear them out even if they used a lifetime or 100 years. But Ji Tianqing's divine soul and divine sense were already powerful to an unfathomable extent long ago. Just using 3 days' time, he finished sorting out the spoils of war and divided them into 8 portions. But Nie Yunhan never appeared again. Nie Feiyin went to Soaring Rainbow sect to ask the elder about his son's whereabouts. The other party informed him that Nie Yunhan had met with a mishap in the secret realm and had already died. He had risked his life to save Nie Yunhan, but he hadn't been able to save him. He had also been seriously injured and had been unconscious for a long time. Naturally, he had a dispute with the Soaring Rainbow Sect's elder and almost came to blows within the Soaring Rainbow Sect's mountain gate. In the end, it was the Myriad Flow sect that stepped forward to mediate and calm this storm. Nye Fei-yun could not accept the fact that his son had died. He personally led several elders of the Flying Cloud sect into the secret realm to investigate. In the end, they spent a few years and entered the secret realm 9 times, searching all the places. In the end, they couldn't find Nye Yunhan, not even his remains or bones. At this time, Soaring Rainbow Sect grasped many secrets of Soaring Cloud Sect. Soaring Rainbow Sect acted in secret, killing many genius disciples and snatching many resources and treasures, causing Soaring Cloud Sect's power to weaken. Nye Fei-yun was finally convinced that it was the elder of Soaring Rainbow Sect who killed his son. Even the secrets and information that the Soaring Rainbow Sect possessed were dug out from his son. Soaring Rainbow Sect naturally refused to admit it. The two sects formed enmity and continued to fight for several decades, but the outcome was never decided. Moreover, Spirit Sword Sect also had enmity with Soaring Cloud Sect, so they also interfered. Soaring Cloud Sect was attacked from both sides and gradually became unable to contend, gradually declining. It was also at that time that Prince Lien developed his power in the Raging Flame Divine Country, successively subduing Soaring Cloud Sect, Spirit Sword Sect, and Soaring Rainbow Sect. Under the pressure of Prince Lien, the 3 great sects stopped fighting. However, the pain of losing his son made Nye Fei-yun unable to let go, and his hatred for Soaring Rainbow Sect also never diminished. It was also because of this that he didn't hesitate to betray the 7 sects when he sought refuge with Ji Tianqing. After the destruction of Spirit Sword Sect and Soaring Rainbow Sect, he secretly rejoiced and was grateful to Ji Tianqing. After all, Ji Tianqing helped him get his revenge. Now, Nye Yunhan's remains actually appeared in this spatial ring. These 2 divine tools became the objects of Nye Fei-yun's grief. To him, they were priceless treasures. After crying and talking to himself for a long time, Nye Fei-yun finally calmed down. He frowned and said to himself with a heart full of doubts, how did young Master Tianqing obtain Han's remains? Could it be, from the spatial ring of that bastard from Soaring Rainbow Sect? It should be like this. Chapter 3158. After distributing the spoils of war, Ji Tianqing entered the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda again and cultivated in the distorted spacetime. He estimated that Lin Shui, God Lord Blood Illusion, and the rest still needed at least half a month to recover from their injuries. This way, he could still cultivate in seclusion for another 2 years in the distorted spacetime. Just nice, I'll make use of this opportunity to attempt to break through to the 8th level Divine Lord realm. Ji Tianqing made up his mind and entered the distorted spacetime, heading straight for the Blood Flame Sacred Tree. Before long, he arrived under the sacred tree. Yun Yao, Ji Ku, and Ji Wushuang were all cultivating in seclusion under the sacred tree. Ji Wushuang had already reached the critical moment of breakthrough. White Dragon, Xianyu, Black Dragon, and Zhen Hong were scattered around the sacred tree, also recuperating and cultivating. Ji Tianqing stopped and observed for a moment. Finally, his gaze landed on the sacred tree. He keenly discovered that the blood flame sacred tree seemed to have grown 10 feet taller. The burning blood flames were even more turbulent. Furthermore, many purple sprouts emerged from the bare branches and treetops. The entire sacred tree appeared to be full of vitality. Its power also clearly increased a bit. This discovery made Ji Tianqing feel delighted. Previously at the Skyfire Lotus Lake, I killed several hundred people from the Flying Cloud sect. In the end, the Blood Flame Sacred Tree did not have any obvious changes. I even thought that I was overthinking. Unexpectedly, when I killed the people from the 7 major sects one after another, the Blood Flame Sacred Tree clearly grew taller. Its power also increased by a lot. From this, it seems that my previous conjecture was correct. The blood flame sacred tree can indeed absorb divine soul and bloodline power to continuously strengthen itself. It's just that this sacred tree is a quasi-king level divine item. It needs to absorb a massive amount of divine soul and bloodline power to have an obvious growth. More than 1,000 people from 2 or 3 sects provided divine soul and bloodline power after death. To the sacred tree, it's very weak. Only when the number of deaths reaches a certain level, such as the several thousand people from the 7 major sects, will it have an effect. Thinking up to here, Ji Tianqing frowned and pondered for a moment. Another idea popped up in his mind. No. The amount of energy the sacred tree could absorb depended not only on the number of people, but also on the realm of the deceased. When I exterminated the Flying Cloud sect, I only killed over 20 divine lords. When the 7 sects were destroyed, more than 200 divine lords had died on the battlefield. From the looks of it, the more divine lord powerhouses that die, the more power the sacred tree can absorb. Ji Tianqing looked around and saw Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Bai Long, and Zhen Hong cultivating. Even Ji Wushuang was also concentrating on cultivating. The current her already successfully broke through to the Divine Lord realm, reaching the first level Divine Lord realm. She had been taught by Yun Yao and Ji Ku since she was young, so she knew the importance of strengthening the foundation of Shinto. At this moment, she was consolidating her foundation of the Divine Tao and accumulating her strength. Seeing this, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly with satisfaction. His gaze then fell on Zhen Hong. Zhen Hong cultivated for 2 years and his injuries had long recovered. He was currently at the critical juncture of assaulting the 5th level Divine Lord realm. If it was in the past, her bloodline power had not been stimulated, and her talent and comprehension were not enough. Even if he tried a few hundred times, he might not succeed. However, things were different now. She had only broken through the bottleneck 7 times, and she was about to succeed. Seeing that there was no suspense in her breakthrough this time, Ji Tianqing felt relieved and left the divine pagoda. Swoosh! A white light flashed. Ji Tianqing returned to the cave. Inside the gloomy and quiet cave, Lin Xue's divine ship was suspended in the air. Ji Tianqing entered the divine ship and rushed to the assembly hall. It was only to see that Lin Xue's injuries had long recovered and ended her cultivation. She was currently sitting in the hall with her eyes closed to rest her mind. Sensing that Ji Tianqing had arrived, she opened both eyes and greeted him. Tianqing, your closed seclusion ended, eh? Really seeing the devil, it's only been a short half a month, how did you become stronger again? Lin Xue just wanted to exchange a few pleasantries with him, but discovered to her surprise that Ji Tianqing's strength became stronger again. Even though she could not see through Ji Tianqing's ins and outs and only felt that he was unfathomable. But she could feel that Ji Tianqing's aura was several times stronger than before. To actually have such a horrifying improvement in such a short time, it was simply terrifying. Ji Tianqing revealed a faint smile and waved his hand. Don't be so surprised. You've known me for so long, haven't you gotten used to it yet? Lin Xue glared at him and said exasperatedly, pervert. Ji Tianqing frowned and said unhappily, don't scold me. I'm not scolding you, I'm praising you. Lin Xue rolled her eyes. Ji Tianqing could not be bothered to chat with her and asked about serious matters. What about the others? How's the recovery of their injuries? Lin Xue said lazily, I've already asked them, they're more or less recovered. If you need anything, I'll get them to gather immediately. Ji Tianqing waved his hand and said, no need to gather, let them continue to cultivate. I'll steer the divine ship, we'll continue south. Chapter 3160. Ji Tianqing steered the divine warship and flew over the vast mountain range, leaving the Sky Wolf County. Next, the divine warship entered the raging flame county and was not far from the royal city. The news of Ji Tianqing's decisive battle in the Sky Wolf City had already spread throughout the raging flame divine country. Regardless of the size of the factions or sects, they all knew that the 7 major sects had been completely wiped out. In an instant, the entire raging flame divine country was shaken. Countless factions were shocked and panicked as they discussed spiritedly. At the same time, the news of Ji Tianqing killing more than 1,000 Sky Wolf City guards had also spread throughout the divine country. Everyone knew about it. The king of Raging Flame even issued an edict to dispatch a large number of imperial guards to encircle and annihilate Ji Tianqing. The various county guards also had to assist. As a result, the entire Raging Flame divine country entered a state of war readiness. Ji Tianqing and the others became public enemies. As long as they appeared in front of the public, they would be besieged. However, this was only on the surface. Or rather, this was only the hope of the various factions and the common people. In reality, Ji Tianqing steered the divine warship and flew continuously for 3 days and 3 nights without being attacked or intercepted. Only a few divine lord experts formed groups of 3 to 5 to secretly track and check the divine warship's tracks. Although there was a certain factor in this, it was that the divine warship was too fast and difficult to track. However, only a few people understood the deeper reason. The king of Raging Flame issued an edict only for the common people of the divine country to see. It is also equivalent to an official declaration of war against me. But in reality, the king of Raging Flame is very clear that the imperial guards and the various county guards cannot kill me. No matter how many come, they will all be sent to their deaths. Instead of dispatching the imperial guards to encircle and annihilate me with great fanfare, it is better to send elite experts to keep track of our movements. At the same time, gather a large number of troops and powerful generals outside the royal city and have another decisive battle with us. In the discussion hall of the divine warship. This was Ji Tianqing's answer to everyone's questions. At this moment, the divine warship had already reached the hinterland of the Raging Flame County and would arrive outside the royal city tomorrow morning. Ji Tianqing handed the divine battleship over to left emissary Jin. He gathered Xue Lin, Blood Illusion God Monarch, Zhen Hong, and the others for a small meeting. With regards to the upcoming final battle, Lin Xue, Sir God Blood Illusion and the rest were nervous and uneasy. Even though they all believed that Ji Tianqing's strength was absolutely invincible below Divine King. Since everyone's safety was guaranteed, what else was there to say? Moreover, Ji Tianqing's reputation in the Bloody Flame and Raging Flame Divine Kingdoms was like thunder that struck fear in people's hearts. He had already become synonymous with lawless, domineering and invincible, and killing God. If they really used guerrilla warfare to harass him, wouldn't they lose their prestige and reputation? When they thought of this, Lin Xue, Zhen Hong, and the others no longer tried to persuade them. Seeing that everyone was silent, Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and said, "All right, everyone, rest for a while and conserve your energy. There will be a fierce battle tonight. Moreover, this battle will definitely shock the other nations and make our names known throughout Great Yen." Just a few simple words were enough to make everyone's blood boil, and they were filled with fighting spirit. This was especially true for Lin Xue and Bai Long. They had always liked to fight and were filled with anticipation. Although the others were not as excited as the two of them, they were also looking forward to it. After all, as members of the divines who firmly pursued the peak of the divine path, who did not want to be famous. Not long after, everyone returned to their respective secret chambers and sat down to adjust their breathing. Half a day passed quickly. At dawn, the divine ship flew into a vast mountain range. This mountain range was called Flying Dragon Mountain. The mountain range was not big. It ran from east to west and spanned 1,000,000 miles. This was the barrier to the north of the Raging Flame capital. After crossing Flying Dragon Mountain and crossing hundreds of thousands of miles of plains, they would arrive at the Raging Flame capital. When the Raging Flame Divine Nation was first established, this was the last line of defense for the Raging Flame capital during the war between the nations. Tonight, this was the last line of defense for Prince Lien and the Emperor of Raging Flame. Among the mountains, on the highest peak of Sky Dragon Mountain, Long Air, the Heavenly Union Sect Master, the Imperial Guard Governor, and a few great generals were armed and ready as they waited quietly. These 8 experts had the highest statuses. They were also the commanders of the army tonight. Behind them, 50 higher divine lords were lined up in a row. There were men and women of all ages, and their appearances and attire were different. Half of them were experts from the inner court who stayed in the palace for a long time and rarely showed themselves. There were also the protectors and elders of the Heavenly Union Sect's Raging Flame branch. The other half were the higher divine lords raised by Prince Lien and the Emperor of Raging Flame. These people on the mountain peak were the main force of tonight's battle. There were more than 10,000 elites lying in ambush within 3,000 miles. Tonight, rivers of blood were destined to flow. Chapter 3161. The night sky was as black as ink, devoid of any starlight. At the peak of Sky Dragon Mountain, cold winds howled, and killing intent filled the air. Even the heavens seemed to know that there would be a bloody battle tonight, and they were mourning. Dragon 2, the Heavenly Unity Sect Master, and the Imperial Army Governor waited patiently. Many experts stared at the northern night sky with awe-inspiring gazes, waiting for the light to appear. Waiting in silence was the most torturous. Time seemed to slow down. Only an hour passed, but it felt like an eternity to them. Finally, in the dark night sky of the north, a ray of light appeared. Whoosh! A pitch-black divine ship that was thousands of feet long flew across the sky, shining with 5-colored light. When it was still 1,000 miles away from Sky Dragon Mountain, the divine ship slowed down. The divine ship didn't conceal itself, nor did it conceal its aura. When it appeared, the expressions of Dragon 2, the Heavenly Unity Sect Master, and many experts changed. Anger appeared on their faces, and they frowned. Their gazes became even colder and sharper. Tianqing is here. Everyone, prepare to set up the array. Dragon 2 said in a low voice as he stared at the divine ship. Although he was humble and flattering in front of Prince Lien, he still had to act humble and flattering. But in front of outsiders, he was cold and arrogant. Tonight, he represented Prince Lien in supervising the battle, and his status was the most honorable. Hearing Dragon 2's order, the dozens of high-level divine lords on the mountain peak immediately flew into the sky and spread out, forming a line of defense. The remaining high-level divine lords all had honorable statuses. They all followed Dragon 2 into the night sky to meet the divine ship. Among these high-level divine lords, the one whose status was second only to Dragon 2 was the sect master of the Heavenly Unity Sect's Raging Flame branch, Liang Jianqing. After all, he was the mainstay of the Heavenly Unity Sect and one of Prince Lien's most trusted subordinates. The third person was the Imperial Guard's governor under the direct rule of the ruler, Yi Liangan. In the army, these three were the strongest, having reached the 8th level of the Divine Lord realm. As for the 4 golden-armored generals, their status was second only to the Imperial Army Governor. They were the pillars of the Raging Flame Divine Country, fierce generals who had gone through countless battles. They were titled the 4 Directions Divine Generals and each of them commanded millions of troops. There were also 3 high deity sovereigns in strange attire. They were strange people who were raised by the monarch. They were known as the Star Breaker 3 Elders. It was said that these 3 eccentric experts came from the south of the Tianbei region. They were once powerful figures in an empire. Nia Feiyan, who was standing behind Ji Tianqing, saw Dragon 2's appearance and transmitted his voice to Ji Tianqing, "Young master, this person is called Dragon 2. He's Prince Lien's personal bodyguard and his closest aide. In the past, Prince Lian's orders were mostly conveyed by Dragon 2. Ji Tianqing nodded slightly, indicating that he understood. At this time, Dragon 2's voice was as cold as a bell. My identity isn't important. Everyone here tonight only has one identity. That is, a chivalrous person who upholds the good and punishes the evil on behalf of Tianqing. Tianqing, you're a demon who went on a killing spree in the Raging Flame Divine Kingdom and killed countless people. We come from all over the world and belong to different races and forces. Yet, we have to work together to kill you. Even the powerhouses of the Imperial Guard Corps have personally arrived. With so many of us besieging you, you should be honored to be buried here tonight. Dragon 2 clearly didn't want to reveal everyone's identities and origins, so he made up a dignified cover. Ji Tianqing and the others sneered, but they were too lazy to expose such a low-level lie. Ha ha ha. Last time, the people who threatened to kill me all died on Wolf Head Mountain. Tonight, the same thing happened again. I admire your courage. But it's a pity that you guys aren't enough to kill. Ji Tianqing sneered, shaking his head as he spoke. There was even some regret in his tone. These words thoroughly angered the 4 Directions Divine Generals, the 3 Star Breakers, and the 50 High Divine Lords. Everyone was filled with righteous indignation. They gnashed their teeth and cursed Ji Tianqing, angrily roaring. At this time, Heavenly Harmony Sect Master Liang Jianqing raised his palms, indicating for everyone to quiet down. He waved his hand and sent out several golden sword lights, which flew high into the sky. Soon, more than 10,000 elite experts appeared in the night sky from all directions. Among them, several thousand people were wearing standard armor. They were clearly the Imperial Guard Corps. There were also many people wearing the same robes and attire. They clearly came from various factions. These 13,000 over people's strength realm were all 8th level celestial deity realm and above. There were even 2,000 people whose strength reached the Divine Lord realm. So many elite experts formed a massive encirclement, sealing off a radius of 3,000 miles. Liang Jianqing stared at Ji Tianqing and said with a cold smile, "Brat, is it enough to kill you now?" Ji Tianqing's expression was indifferent as he shook his head again. Still not enough. As the many elite experts charged forward, the encirclement within a radius of 2,000 miles shrank rapidly. When the encirclement was narrowed to 500 to 600 miles, it would be the real close combat, the fiercest battle. The 10,000 plus elites were still charging forward, but the 50 high-level divine lords were the first to attack, using world-shaking divine abilities and ultimate skills. Sky-Sea Raging Dragon Explosion. God-Slaying Sword in 10 Steps. 8-Directional God-Slaughtering Fist. Unparalleled Glass Palm. Waning Moon Startles the Heavens. The 50 high-level divine lords all used their ultimate killing moves with all their might. Instantly, a dazzling 5-colored divine light illuminated the night sky for thousands of miles. Divine abilities of various shapes and sizes, carrying with them an overwhelming murderous intent, rained down on Ji Tianqing and the others. The area became chaotic. Flames soared into the sky, thunder roared, lightning flashed, black clouds covered the sky, and hurricanes swept across. Faced with such a dangerous situation, Ji Tianqing and the others didn't panic, their expressions unchanged. After all, they were already mentally prepared. No matter how many enemies there were, no matter how loud their charge was, they had sufficient confidence in Ji Tianqing. As expected, Ji Tianqing also made a prompt decision to attack. He formed a divine seal with both hands and used the heaven-destroying sword array, instantly connecting with the stars in the sky. Instantly, 25,000 streaks of starlight appeared in the pitch-black sky, raining down like a meteor shower. Those were 25,000 giant divine swords formed from the power of the stars in the sky, containing a divine might and sword intent that could suppress everything. Ji Tianqing kept waving his hands, using divine Tao laws, adding dozens of nomological powers to the divine swords in the sky. Thus, when the 10,000 giant swords descended above their heads, they became even more extraordinarily powerful and indestructible. Swish! 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 In a short span of time, the 25,000 giant divine swords enveloped an area of 1,000 miles, forming a giant sword net. Thousands of giant swords danced in the sky, releasing the most dazzling light. The divine abilities used by the 50 high-level divine lords were intercepted by the giant swords just as they reached the heads of Ji Tianqing and the others. Rumble. Boom. Crack. Bam. 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 The giant swords clashed with the divine abilities, creating a deafening explosion that reverberated between heaven and earth. Countless divine abilities exploded, but the giant swords in the sky were unharmed. The shock waves from the explosion carried with them countless fragments of divine light, spreading out in all directions. Ji Tianqing and the others were the closest, so they bore the brunt of the impact. People like Bai Long and Zhen Hong were weaker, so they were easily injured by the shock waves. But Ji Tianqing was prepared. His body lit up with dazzling golden light, forming a giant shield that protected everyone within. No matter how the shock wave struck, the golden shield was undamaged, and everyone was safe and sound. Just like that, the first round of attacks from the 50 high-level divine lords was easily neutralized by Ji Tianqing. The 10 commanders and the 50 high-level divine lords were all dumbfounded, shocked and incredulous. This is the divine ability that he is best at, the one that is widely known, heavenly punishment. Lian Er frowned as he looked at the situation, his expression grave. Liang Jianqing nodded and said solemnly, back then, when he was dealing with the various sects, he used this move. Everyone knows that this divine ability sword formation is very powerful and can kill everything. But no one can break this sword formation, nor can they block the attacks of the sword formation. Imperial Army Governor Yi Liang frowned and thought for a while. Then he said solemnly, this bastard used the sword formation to seal off an area of 1,000 miles, trapping all of us in the sword formation. Could it be that he wants to use this heavenly punishment sword formation to kill all 13,000 of us? Lian Er nodded and did not speak. Yi Liang and the four directions divine generals' expressions changed drastically. They could not help but exclaim, this is impossible. How can there be a monarch-level divine formation in the world that can kill 13,000 elite experts? Perhaps only the legendary king-level divine formation can do that. That bastard is not a divine king, so how can he kill all of us? No one answered his question. Everyone's mood was very heavy. At this moment, the heaven-destroying sword formation was completely formed, and it sped up. 10,000 giant swords sealed off the area, forming a sword net. The other 15,000 giant swords crisscrossed in the air for thousands of miles, attacking the army. Liang Jianqing cursed as he blocked the giant swords. This sword formation covers 1,000 miles, and there are at least tens of thousands of giant swords. Why is the power of each giant sword so strong? Even we, high divine lords, are in a perilous situation. The slightest bit of carelessness and we will be injured by the enormous sword. It was easy to imagine how those 13,000 people would be able to withstand the attack of the giant sword. How did that despicable bastard Tianqing master such a terrifying skill? Yi Liang was full of worry as he said in a low voice, Sirs, the battle has just begun and the situation is already so dangerous. We can't just watch and do nothing. We have to take action. Only we can stop Tianqing. Even if we can't kill him, we can at least suppress him. The red-haired old monster of the 3-star breaker elders grinned coldly and said, Commander Yi, it's easy for you to say. We have already done our best to block the attack of the 10,000 swords. How can we suppress that bastard? The other old monster with purple hair and the appearance of a 10-year-old child said in a strange tone, "The battle has just begun. Only 1,000 people have died, and you are already so panicked. If you feel so sorry for those trash, how about we just surrender? Let's see if that bastard Tianqing will let us go." These two people's words were quite harsh. Not only did they make Yi Liang's expression turn ugly, but the four divine generals also showed anger. It seemed that they were about to start arguing and fighting among themselves. At this moment, the Lian heir said in a dignified tone, "Cut the crap. Everyone has signed a military order for this operation. Either we die here or return victorious. No one can avoid it. The army's morale is weak. If this continues, they will definitely be defeated. Everyone, follow me. Do your best to restrain Tianqing." After saying that, the Lian heir took out 2 sabers and charged at Ji Tianqing. Liang Jianqing and Yi Liang did not hesitate. They each took out their divine weapons and charged with the Lian heir. Immediately after, the 4 divine generals also braved the sword rain and charged at Ji Tianqing without any regard for their own safety. Only the 3-star breaker elders remained where they were, stunned for a moment. The 3 of them looked at each other and revealed helpless expressions. They could only brace themselves and attack. When the 10 commanders charged in front of Ji Tianqing, they realized that Ji Tianqing and the others were fighting with many high-level divine lords in the sword rain. Of the 50 high-level divine lords, more than 30 were still blocking the sword rain and assisting the army in attacking. Only a dozen or so of them charged near Ji Tianqing and attacked from 100 miles away, creating pressure for Ji Tianqing and the others. Ji Tianqing controlled the heaven-destroying sword formation to attack the army while casting spells to block the attacks. Lin Shui, Blood Illusion, Shen Hong, White Dragon, and the others stayed within Ji Tianqing's golden light shield and fought with the high-level divine lords around them. Even Yun Yao, Ji Ku, Ji Wushuang, Qian Yu, and Black Dragon left 9 Heavens 10 Absolutes Pagoda and joined the battle. They were all beside Ji Tianqing and were protected by the golden light shield. They used all kinds of divine powers and supreme skills to attack with all their might. Those high-level divine lords could not break the golden light shield at all, nor could they hurt Ji Tianqing and the others. Instead, it was the counterattacks of Ji Tianqing and the others that gave them a lot of pressure. They blocked the attacks of the giant swords and neutralized the divine powers of Ji Tianqing and the others. Soon, they showed signs of defeat and were all injured. Fortunately, Lian heir, Liang Jianqing, Yi Liang'an and the others arrived in time and joined the battle. The 4 directions divine generals and the 3-star breakers also surrounded Ji Tianqing and the others and attacked. The 10 commanders all used their divine powers and supreme skills and released all kinds of powerful killing moves. They attacked Ji Tianqing and the others like a flood. Suddenly, the pressure on Ji Tianqing and the others increased greatly. Cracks appeared on the golden light shield and it was in danger. As a result, the pressure on the high-level divine lords was greatly reduced. They hurriedly retreated a distance and took the opportunity to suppress their injuries and consume elixirs. Soon, 30 breaths of time passed. Ji Tianqing's golden light shield finally couldn't hold on any longer and exploded with a loud bang. Crack! The golden light shield shattered into pieces and scattered in the night sky. Without the protection of the shield, Lin Shui, Yun Yao, Ji Ku and the others were in an extremely dangerous situation. Seeing this, Lian heir, Liang Jianqing, Yi Liang'an and the others were overjoyed. They became more spirited and attacked even more crazily. At the critical moment, Ji Tianqing made a decision and took out the Jiutian Tenju Tower. Swish! The divine tower instantly expanded to 10,000 feet tall and released a mysterious black light that sucked everyone in. Only Ji Tianqing was left outside the divine tower. The attacks of the high-level divine lords landed on the divine tower and made a deafening sound, but it was not effective. Chapter 3164. The divine technique light that blotted out the sky, as well as the light of various mystical abilities, were unable to break through the divine tower's defenses. Ji Tianqing also used endless sky of chaos, his body becoming transparent and blurry. The ultimate killing moves of numerous divine lords passed through him without any delay, scattering between heaven and earth, but he was completely unharmed. Seeing this scene, Lian Er, Liang Jianqing, and the others were stunned again, revealing expressions of disbelief and anger. Damn it! Our divine abilities and consummate skills actually passed through his body. Are our eyes playing tricks on us? He's actually completely unharmed. This is too strange. Damn beast, what sorcery did he use? And that divine tower, it's protecting everyone, we must destroy it. That black tower's aura is very mysterious, it's definitely not an ordinary monarch-level divine artifact, everyone must be careful. That little beast's strength is already ridiculously strong, and he grasps this kind of mystical ability, how are we going to kill him? Such a strange mystical ability, who knows how long it can last? If it lasts for 15 minutes, it's still fine, but if he can last for 2 hours, then we'll be doomed. Everyone cried out in alarm, reminding each other to deal with it carefully. Especially the 3 elders Pexing, they were even more worried and anxious. Liang Jianqing's expression was dignified as he shouted coldly, "What are you all so anxious for? The facts have proven that our joint attack has already caused great pressure on that brat. He's strong, but that group of people around him are all trash, and they still need his protection. Now that group of people have all hidden in the Black Tower, only that brat is left to fight alone, how long can he last? As long as we continue to attack and put pressure on him, he won't be able to control the sword formation. At that time, the sword formation's power will weaken, and an army of 10,000 will charge over, and his doomsday will come." After Liang Jianqing's analysis, the surrounding divine lord powerhouses were much more relieved. Especially the other 30 or so divine lords, another dozen or so people charged through the sword rain, charging near the Black Tower. In this way, the number of divine lords besieging Ji Tianqing reached as many as 42. Although many were already injured, and their battle prowess had weakened. However, they had so many people besieging Ji Tianqing. Of course, their morale was high, and they were full of confidence. Yi Liang and also shouted in high spirits, everyone saw it. Previously, they were all talking about him as if he was a god, blowing that kid up to the sky. But in reality, no matter how powerful he is, he can only passively defend against us. Let's continue to attack and put more pressure on him. We'll be able to kill him soon. The Lian Er didn't say much. He waved his hand domineeringly and ordered, "Kill." Thus, the 42 high divine lords attacked together, unleashing powerful divine abilities and killing moves that rained down on Ji Tianqing. However, Ji Tianqing sat cross-legged in the night sky, his hands forming a divine spell as he focused on controlling the heaven-destroying sword formation. He even ignored the divine light that blotted out the sun above his head. Swoosh! Swish swish swish. Divine abilities and supreme skills passed through him without any obstruction, scattering between heaven and earth without causing any ripples. A portion of the divine abilities and killing moves landed on the 9 heavens 10 absolutes pagoda, exploding with earth-shattering sounds. However, they were useless. The divine pagoda stood motionless in the night sky, its surface covered with a layer of mysterious black light that made it indestructible. Although their attacks were useless, they weren't able to put any pressure on Ji Tianqing. Lian Er, Liang Jianqing, and the others were full of confidence, and they continued to attack without stopping. Time passed by slowly. In 20 breaths of time, they had launched more than 10 attacks. The result was, without a doubt, completely useless. Ji Tianqing was still sitting in the night sky, focused on controlling the sword formation, completely unaffected. Finally, the 3-star breakers realized that something was wrong. This is bad. The situation is bad. Everyone, look. The sword formation seems to have become stronger again. Our army of more than 10,000, how come there are only so few people left? Lian Er, Liang Jianqing, and the others were all focused on Ji Tianqing, ignoring the surrounding army. Hearing the exclamations of the 3-star breakers, everyone was startled awake. They turned their heads to look around, and only then did they realize that something was wrong. Within 100 li, the number and power of the giant swords were the same as before, there was no change. However, beyond 100 li, the giant swords that filled the sky became dazzling with rainbow colors, releasing sword energy that blotted out the sky and created countless sword-light hurricanes. The power of those giant divine swords was clearly twice as strong as before. Moreover, the power of laws contained in the giant swords had doubled. Looking around, there were sword-light hurricanes and sword rain in all directions, and they couldn't see anyone else at all. Even the screams and battle cries of the army had become indistinct, and couldn't be heard clearly. Lian Er, Liang Jianqing, and the others immediately frowned, their expressions changing. So much time has passed, why hasn't the army charged over yet? Damn it! That bastard is stalling for time, toying with us while increasing his strength to slaughter our army. What a treacherous bastard! He wants to stop the army from surrounding and wantonly slaughter our army before finally dealing with us. Reality was just as everyone had expected. The sword-light and hurricanes that blotted out the sky obscured the surrounding scene. However, when everyone used their divine senses to observe, they could see the wretched scene on the battlefield. The powerful sword-light and hurricanes that filled the sky were like raging waves, wildly swallowing up the surrounding army. Previously, the army had 12,000 people, divided into 30-some groups. But now, the army was left with only 9,000 or so, with only 20 groups remaining. Wherever the sword-light and hurricanes passed, batch after batch of elite experts and low-level divine lords would be ground to dust, blood flying everywhere. Only those mid-level divine lords could barely last a few rounds before their divine bodies were ground to pieces by the sword-light. While everyone was observing the battlefield, another 400-some people had died tragically to the sword-light. Lian Er, Liang Jianqing, and the others had seen through Ji Tianqing's goal and were so angry that their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. That damned bastard, he's a devil, an executioner. What are you all still standing around for? Go help the army block the sword array. Anyway, that kid used a divine ability and became transparent and blurry. We can't hurt him either. Why waste time with him? Yes. Let's ignore him and go rescue the army. Let's see what he can do. The few commanders exchanged a few words and decided on a plan. However, the 3 elders Poxing raised an objection. We finally surrounded him with great difficulty. Are we really going to split up? Everyone, don't forget that the initiative is in that kid's hands. He's transparent now, but after we split up and go rescue the army, what if he returns to normal? He's slaughtering the army now. When we go rescue the army, he'll return to normal and kill us one by one. At that time, it'll be too difficult for us to gather together again. Hearing the 3 elders Poxing's words, the few commanders were also stunned for a moment, their faces revealing difficult expressions. Even the backbone of the group, Lian Er, was hesitant. He sighed with a bitter expression and said, "Sigh, we're in a dilemma." You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.